his hand, don't be mistaken. I believe in peace, but I won't be taken.
This is Liberty Underground with Alex Snicker, Danielle Alexandre, and Greg Bowen on the 1787 Radio Network.
Well, good morning, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, everybody out in Butte, Montana, everybody that's in Riyadh, everybody that's in Timbuktu. Hopefully you're having a Timbuktu day. You know, I gotta tell you, I think if you live in Timbuktu, I think you're happier when you say the name of your city. You're just like, where do you live? Timbuktu. Yeah, I live in Timbuktu.
It's just fun to say.
It is just fun to say. It is very fun to say. Good morning, everybody. This is Alex, co-host, Liberty Underground. Along with me is my own personal Wikipedia, a woman that sometimes likes Switzerland, where she is able to stay neutral. Danielle Alexandre, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Feeling good?
Yeah.
All right, that's good. Glad to hear it. Also in studio is the Prime Minister of all things that are sinister, a man that believes in schnoogans.
We should all believe in schnoogans.
What's that?
In schnoogans.
We should all believe in schnoogans, by the way. Greg Bowen, Greg, how are you doing, sir?
Spectacular.
Feeling good?
Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
You know, the first thing I actually want to do is to start off with a little passive-aggressive rant that I will not mention any names while I give the rant, but I do want to give a passive-aggressive rant right now. Some say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And while there are times where that may be true, I don't necessarily buy into that all the time.
No, you don't buy into that ever, by the way.
Yes. Maybe. Possibly. However, since we've been doing this show from like the beginning, and not because anybody else was doing it before we were doing it, but we always have the Year of the Resistance thing in the beginning. I would like for people to stop using it, other than us.
All people.
All peoples. As a matter of fact, I want the Terminator people to stop using it in their movie.
Would you like
Even
to,
though I will still use their clip in order to do it.
Would you like to copyright it and this way nobody can use it unless they pay you?
No, because I just don't want them to use it. So let's just not use it. But at any rate, that's my passive-aggressive rant for the morning. Look, just come up with your own. Again, come up with your own stuff.
It's like Donald Trump tried to copyright like "you're fired," so that if you were to say it, you would have to pay him.
I want a quarter every time somebody says it.
You know what? That's the second thing we need to be getting into. Very good point. Thank you very much for the. Thank you very much for the segue, Danielle. Let's piss off more people this morning.
Well, no, and I'm just saying, does that now? Maybe that's his job's plan. That nobody can ever say the word "you're fired," so everybody stays employed.
You can't fire anybody.
That's possible. Who knows what that authoritarian psychopath wants?
Well, the problem is, then everyone will just. It's actually just going to put more people on the dole, because then you have to say you're laid off, which then means they go collect unemployment. So I don't know that that's necessarily the solution.
The whole thing.
You're no longer employed with me.
We've eliminated your position.
Yeah. It's a good way of doing it.
Think about that. Once you tell them you can't say the word "you're fired," they will innovate new and efficient ways of terminating your employment.
I'm not going to say that they're efficient ways. I would not say that they're more efficient.
No, maybe not more
You're
efficient.
fired is very efficient.
That is pretty efficient. It's quick and to the point.
All right. Let's get into
Everybody's favorite guy.
I'm really having a hard time here, people. I'm really having a hard time here. Let me explain what I mean by I'm having a hard time, though. So many people that I know that are very well-meaning people, well, I thought were well-meaning people, for some reason, are just fawning all over Donald Trump like a damn 13 concert. And
I don't think 13-year-olds today would know who Hanson is.
No.
no,
It's like One
Justin
Direction.
Bieber, One Direction.
the fact that you knew those two names is just more rock and roll points away from you. Sir.
I have a roll daughter.
Yeah, we have children. I pay attention to God in the world. I have a wife that is very interested in pop culture.
don't try to cover it up, Greg. No, I'm just kidding, Greg. I'm just kidding.
I'm a believer.
Yeah, that you just lost any kind of music credibility
Yeah.
that you ever had.
I gotta
You
tell
just
you.
lost it. The whole metalhead conversation from last week, null and void.
I would tell you, Greg, personally, I really think you got to take that back.
I am not a believer.
Thank you. All right, so let's talk about Trump, though. We'll talk about Trump in the beginning here. I don't understand how these people are supporting this guy. And let me explain what I mean by that. Look, is he outside of the establishment? I mean, I guess, yeah, but not really. So let's
outside of
blow
the
that out of the water first and foremost. And he's given you the clues to show you that he's not. The first one is that in his press conference, he has talked about how he has lobbyists that he's paid to get things done for him. That means he's done the same thing that all the other crony capitalists have done. And again, that's not my words, that's his words. I'm just giving you the full definition, not Trump's, New York definition.
I wrote a book.
I wrote a book, Art of the Deal. You know what you didn't write a book about? How to be a president. Or how to run a campaign.
Or how to keep from putting your foot in your mouth and swallowing.
Yeah. So, but let's get into some of this stuff though. The first thing is this, I'm an outsider. In some ways, you're absolutely right. The guy's a little bit of an outsider. Greg had most, graciously pointed out, is it this guy? This ain't the first time he's run for office or flirted with it.
Or second, or third.
Or second, or third, or fourth, or fifth.
This is actually the fourth presidential election in a row that he has either announced or officially thrown his hat in the ring.
And there was a couple times in the 90s that he did it when he was promoting his deal.
Yeah.
So, Trump is not an outsider. He is just as much. Look, he's not just as much of an insider as people like Ron, people like Jeb Bush. He's on the inside, but he's the payer. Like, Jeb Bush normally gets donations. Donald Trump's the guy that gives you the massive donations in order to get the politician to do what he wants. That's what Trump has done. There's no getting around that crap. I mean, hell, he's given tens of thousands of dollars to Hillary Clinton.
And Harry Reid.
Hillary Clinton, Reid, tens of thousands of dollars. Would you trust a person that's doing that?
Is he a Democrat or a Republican?
He's a Republican.
But he
Yeah.
supports Hillary Clinton and Harry Reid.
Yeah, because he was a Democrat before. So he just, within the last, I think, 2 election cycles, became a Republican. But before that, he was,
I supported him before I was against him.
Yeah.
and I have to say, and I was saying this to Alex the other day or yesterday or whatever, I honestly, every time I see Donald Trump in an interview, I don't feel like it's an interview. I feel like it's a product placement infomercial.
It is. It totally is. Well, that's what in 88, 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, and now 2016, he has run. And every single time, the last 2, it was blatant. His presidential campaign were ad campaigns for Celebrity Apprentice.
Right.
It was blatant. It was unmistakable. If you did not pick up on that, you are the problem. You are the sheep that are leading us astray. It was very clear what he was doing. He was advertising and marketing his media empire. And I have no doubt that that's what he's doing now. He is building the brand of Donald Trump. He has no interest in leading the American people. I don't think he has the capability to lead the American people. He is looking to increase importance and his.
And that's the thing, and you can hear it in his interviews because they ask him a question, and the question is, you have handled the Iran deal. Well, I wrote this book, The Art of the Deal. It's a New York Times #1 bestseller. You can get it at all your local bookstores. I'm like, what?
And in that book, I tell you exactly how we should have made this deal with Iran. Oh.
And I'm like, am I presidential candidate or commercial? Like, I'm waiting for him to have props. Like, here's the book.
But wait, if you act now, I will throw in at no extra charge.
I'm waiting for that. But wait, there's more.
All right. So the first thing that my problem is that he is a political insider. The second one is that you're right. He's not serious about running for office. Whether you think he is or not right now is inconsequential to the fact that he's already proven in the past that he's not. Now, third part, and I would argue the most important part, is that the man doesn't understand the position he's running for. How many people that are good-meaning people that now support Donald Trump are like, we really need to get back to the Constitution? Do you mean that, or was that just conjecture? Because if you meant it, if you were serious, then you can't support this guy. He doesn't understand the position he's running for. And when asked so many actual questions, he sounds like a moron if you actually listen to what he said. Somebody asked him about Supreme Court nominees. And his response was, well, I want to bring in somebody that's very judicial. He said a bunch of other stuff too, but that was some of the words he used. I want to make sure I'm picking somebody judicial.
It's like, oh, who are you going to go with in the first round draft pick? I'm going to pick somebody that's very athletic.
Yeah.
I went down my list and I ruled out Hobo Bob down the road. And then I went on to the girl who makes my coffee. But then I thought, no, that didn't seem right. And, then it was my secretary, because she takes notes pretty well. Seriously.
She was a paralegal before she started working for me.
That's the problem here. That, and he's just... Look, man, people like it. Oh, he speaks his mind. He speaks his mind, and that's what we need. We need somebody that's not going to be, give us political answers. Is going to give us real answers. I actually understand that thought process. I would like to have somebody that was more upfront. But the problem is that when you do find somebody that's upfront, you still have to judge whether that upfront is good or bad.
Yeah.
And his upfront is bad.
Yeah, I want real answers, but I don't want real racist answers.
Well, it's like you're saying, Alex. He doesn't understand the office he's running for, and it reminds me of when Bubba was running for sheriff. And Bubba was running for sheriff. It sounded like he thought he was running for king. And that's what Donald Trump. It's like he thinks he's running for king. And he doesn't seem to understand exactly what he's going to be able to do when he gets there, if he gets there.
Yeah. I don't even think the guy's serious. I think at the end of the day, it's Jeb Bush against Hillary Clinton. We're all voting Libertarian. However, this guy is leading in the polls right now. I just got to say, it just pisses me off that all these people are so willing to be supportive of a man that I don't think that they take consideration when it comes to everything that this guy, like, they're not doing any vetting at this point when it comes to Trump. Like, they're just kind of being okay with it. I mean, and again, there's a huge difference between being a CEO of a company and being the president of the United States. And you don't want one that doesn't understand the other. Like, you don't want a guy that doesn't understand the office that they're running for. Just like I wouldn't want a president to be the CEO of some company if they didn't know what the hell they were doing. Right. You know what I mean? It's not. It doesn't require. It requires different.
A different skill set.
Different skill set. Yeah.
Well, I think that what the fact that Donald Trump is leading. What that tells me is that internet culture has taken us over, and we have now become a culture of internet trolls in reality. Because that's what that is to me. It's like people are like, yeah, I'll pick Trump in this poll because You know, I'm going to troll everybody and let him be number one. And look, we're picking Donald Trump. It's like voting for Mickey Mouse or voting for the biggest jerk just to see what is going to happen. You know, it's really like watching a train wreck. You just can't look away. You stop it, but you're going to watch it.
And I have to say, all this like hype over Scott Walker for like the last like 2 months, and he announces and nobody cares.
Yeah.
The other thing that Donald Trump has done is suck all the air out of the room for anybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you don't hear about hardly anybody else. I mean, unless they're interacting with Trump.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. Like Scott Walker, I don't like Scott Walker. I don't want to vote for Scott Walker, but between him and Trump, Scott Walker at least understands the position. He's probably infinitely more qualified to actually hold that office. But Scott Walker announces, and it hits with a deafening thud, and you know Donald Trump's getting all the attention.
Well, and that's the thing. And if you're Donald Trump, it's a brilliant marketing scheme. You know hundreds of $1 million to put commercials on TV to rebuild your brand because you're not on The Apprentice anymore. Let's just run for president, say the most outrageous things you can possibly say, so everybody has you on TV all the time.
Exactly. He's injecting himself into the public conversation and making his name even more of a household name than it already was. And he's going to bail within a couple months here, but probably before the primaries. Yeah. And we're not going to hear from him again in this campaign cycle. But everybody, and his books are going to sell like hotcakes, and he's going to make more and more money than he's ever made before. He's already worth $10 billion.
It says he's worth $10 billion.
Well, that's the records that have been provided.
Yeah, and some of that is, you're valuing something that hasn't. I mean, it's not like you.
Well, there's like a lot of real estate that he owns that's valued at this. It's not like it's liquid cash on hand that he can just spend, but still, I mean, it's assets. It's what he's worth.
Oh, he's in this for the long haul.
I don't think he is.
I do. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with that. He is though.
I don't think he is. I think he's gonna bail just like he always does.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We could take a little betting pool on this if you'd like.
We could.
What's the bet?
All right. Okay. Here's how we got to work it. We got to work it with you pick the date, but then you can be before the date, but not after the date.
So it's like Price is Right.
It's a little
Getting
bit
closest without going over.
Yeah. It's a little bit like Price is Right.
I say he's out before the Florida primary. I think he's going to hit the first couple. So I think he's out before March 15th.
Hold on. So Danielle, Danielle, right?
Yeah.
And then you say March 15th.
There's a couple primaries before the big. I think he's gonna go through Super Tuesday because that's where he's gonna get the most PR, and then he drops.
Yeah, I'm looking for a date though, so I don't want. I wrote March 15th. Are you sticking by
I'm
March
sticking.
15th?
That's March 15th is after Super Tuesday. I'm sticking.
What
with
is
it.
the date of the first debate? The first televised.
August
Oh,
6th.
that's coming up in a couple weeks.
August
Okay.
6th. Birthday, actually. Hell of a birthday present.
I'm thinking he's going to take advantage of the primary debates to inject himself onto the television yet again. But I don't think he's actually going to stick through to the primary. So Danielle's saying March 15th.
Yeah, I think he gets through Super Tuesday because that's a lot of PR on Super Tuesday.
I agree with that thought process. I really do. I'm going to go with March 23rd.
March 23rd, huh?
Yeah.
And Greg, Greg.
King.
All right, so now I am going to go to. When's nominating?
I think you're gonna be looking at June. I think or June or July.
I'm gonna go with June 31st or June 30th.
Let me figure out when the RNC is gonna be.
All right, so I'm going with June 30th on this one, just to see. Here's my thought process. I think he's in it till the end, but he doesn't win. So, like, you know.
I don't think he sticks it out through the end because there's going to come a point where it's obvious that he's not going to win. And so he's going to drop.
Oh, I don't think that matters. I think he's going to be...
But because he's self-funding anyways.
Yeah, he's self-funding anyways. So it doesn't matter. He can stay in as long as he wants to.
Well, yeah, but there's going to become a point where it's obvious he's not going to win, and there's no more publicity to gain by staying in.
July 18th.
No, the damage you can cause is monumental.
July 18th.
Well, all right, well, then I'm going to go July 18th.
Well, the thing is, he's a businessman. He's not worth $10 billion because he doesn't know how to make money, okay? The campaign is spending money. He's going to get back to making money. So he's going to end that campaign and go to work and earning money, and he that as soon as it's financially reasonable. You know, as soon as he has less to gain by staying in than he does by getting out and going back to making money, that's when he's going to get out.
Well, I think he's got the most to gain at the end, though, which is damage.
I don't necessarily think the damage is his goal, though.
I think it's either acceptance or damage. It's
No.
either you win or you screw it up for everybody else.
I don't think that's what he wants to do, though.
That's where we disagree.
You could be right because he's done it before.
Reform Party.
Yeah, I that's why I'm not arguing with you. That's why I'm saying he's done it
It's
before.
kinda like,
Not this time, no, you know?
I mean, this is why I don't think he's going to stick in through the primaries, because that's what happened before. I mean, with the Reform Party, he went through this. He actually won the primary in 2 states and completely bailed the Reform Party. It's the primary winner for their party left the
and
race.
he was like, nah, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. So what was he won? California and Michigan, I think.
Yeah.
Which are not in insignificant states here.
Right.
It's not like he won North Dakota and Wyoming.
That nobody cares. And I feel bad for people in North Dakota and Wyoming because nobody cares how you vote.
Yeah. You don't even have enough electoral votes to be relevant.
Yeah, like it's like being Rhode Island.
The problem is
Rhode Island.
some of the people that are up there, though, are from those states, though.
Yeah, some of the people up where.
Like people like Dick Cheney.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, but still.
Well,
cares about Wyoming.
that's why they go that route, because they know they have no power through their vote, so they
Yeah.
have to get involved in government.
Exactly. Maybe we shouldn't like the people from Wyoming and North Dakota.
You know. And that's the thing.
What are you going to do, by the way? What are you going to do, Dakota?
Yeah.
Idaho? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What, are you going to throw a potato at me? I got sunshine. I will melt your stuff, man. Well, I was going to say shit, but you didn't want me to.
Gonna melt the potato?
I don't think
It's not that hot. We can bake the potato.
I'll melt it. I'll bake it. I'll throw some chives.
I'll put some chives and sour cream on there, some bacon bits.
Yeah.
Throw it right back at you.
Some seaweed now. Some seaweed.
Oh yeah, the
bacon flavored seaweed. Oh, brilliant.
And it worries me when they say we created bacon flavored seaweed.
Like in Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Yeah, like I do. I feel like the seaweed is gonna like jump up off the plane and
we pulled bacon DNA out of fossilized bacon and injected it into seaweed.
Like it was like we've discovered a new form of seaweed that we created in a lab. That's not that's not like, oh, look at under this rock. There's this new form of seaweed.
In fact, I think the Godzilla movie started.
Alrighty then.
Up from the depths,
You're
30
the one that brought
stories
up
high.
bacon seaweed.
Hey, I'm just saying. All right. Let's talk about something else. All right. So, it's very funny what is happening in the state of Florida as far as the election cycle is going.
That's the worst segue ever.
And you could call this political musical chairs.
The 2016 election cycle is going to be so interesting in Florida, just in general. But now, I mean, everything is moving. So, I mean, and people people ask us like, so now we're all kind of speculating on who's going to run for what seat, and part of it is the Senate seat.
Yeah, the U.S. Senate seat. which is a race that I did not think was going to be anything near at all interesting, that has turned into probably going to be one of the more interesting races. So
It's probably going to be one of the most interesting races in the country.
Yeah, it could end up doing that.
Yeah.
So now what you have here is just this week announcing is the lieutenant governor, which is probably the most useless position that we have in Florida.
I don't even think he knows what he does.
Yeah, Carlos Lopez. By the way, let me just also say, I'm not a fan of three. I'm not a fan of two last names.
No.
Well,
I think you should pick one.
it's very common in a lot of Spanish-speaking cultures that you take your father's last name, but you hyphenate your father's maiden name.
Yeah, most Latinos actually have like 5, 6, 7
Yeah.
names to their
Because
full
you,
legal
you
name.
keep them all.
Yeah.
You keep every single one of your family names, but generally children will hyphenate their father's last name and their mother's maiden name.
Yeah, I don't like that. All right, so. So you got Carlos Lopez Cantera, who's now, or Pantera, Carlos Lopez Pantera. That's what we're going to call him from now on, Carlos Lopez Pantera.
And I do have to say, there is a typo in the Politico story because they call him Lopez Canera.
Oh, I don't see that.
Yeah, it's in the third paragraph.
At least they don't call him Lopez Panera.
There it is right there. Yeah.
Canera.
Who's that? That's
I don't. They
that's
switch
Caputo.
people. Yeah.
That's Caputo making that mistake. You gotta like Caputo now.
I'll send him a text.
All right, so you got Ron DeSantis. Now, and then you also have
Carlos Lopez Cantera.
no, who else though? No, there's another big name. And I'm not talking about the newest one, but I'm talking about who else.
I don't know who else was who's the big name.
Well,
there?
David Jolly.
No.
I was
He's
thinking
talking about someone else. I don't know who that would be.
Look it up real quick, would you?
Yeah, I am.
All right, so but let me talk about these two first though. So Carlos Lopez Cantera has already gotten in Pam Bondi's endorsements. Been in it for a day and already got Pam Bondi's endorsement.
Well, they work together.
Well,
They're
yeah,
like
yeah.
buds. They're
Yeah.
They both don't know what they do.
Yeah.
Pam Bondi looks at pictures of dead babies.
I don't even know why you wanted to do that, but it's just
Because I like bringing that up every opportunity I can because she completely disgusted me when she said that.
Yeah, all right. I'll go with that. So Carlos Lopez Cantera looks like he will have the backing of the establishment here in Florida.
You talking about Joe Smith?
No.
I have Dorenzo, Patrick Murphy, but he's a Dem. No, I don't.
Well,
know.
name off all the Republicans that are running.
Dorenzo,
That is, but okay.
Ela Katz, which we know who that is.
Yeah.
I don't even have DeSantis in here or Cantera.
They're not actually. They haven't made it official yet. Then.
No, because they're probably FEC only, and the FEC hasn't sent it over.
Okay. All right. So, all right, we're going to talk about just these three then. So we're just going to talk about these three. So you have Carlos Lopez Cantera. He's going to be backed by the state establishment.
Right.
DeSantis is looking like he's going to be getting the support of the national kind of grassrootsy kind of groups.
Yeah.
And now the newest entry is going to be a gentleman by the name of David Jolly. And is an interesting character. And the reason why is because Jolly, in all essence, is a moderate.
He appears to be a moderate because he will do anything that he needs to do to secure his wealth and power. Problem with putting a political label on somebody like that. It's easy to label him a moderate because he's going to sway with whatever direction the money and power goes.
Well, okay, let me finish what I was going to say then, though, before I got interrupted. I'm just kidding.
I'll just turn my mic off.
Oh, don't turn your mic off, Greg. Don't be like that. But David Jolly is basically bought and paid for by the establishment because he was part of the establishment before he was even elected to Congress. He was part of it for a long, long time, between either being a lobbyist for the military-industrial complex or working directly for Bill Young. So the establishment of the GOP is actually going to be picking Jolly. That's going to be their guy.
But he stays out of the fray in the infighting too.
No, he does do a good job of staying out of the fray. Well, and he marries young. Pardon the pun. So he's going to be the GOP, the Washington establishment. And then so you have the state of Florida establishment against the GOP establishment against maybe what you would call the grassroots, like the Freedom Works Republicans. Probably a good way of saying it, right? So we'll see who wins that. Very interesting race. Now, on the Democrat side of the U.S. Senate race, you have Patrick Murphy, who's a moderate, and you have now entered the largest scumbag that is in Washington, D.C., by the name of Alan Guts, whatever you want to... I'm a senator with guts, Grayson. By the way, wife beater.
I was gonna
is probably
say,
a better
he's
term.
got so many guts. He's got to beat his wife.
Yeah. I'm so sick of guys that say they got guts. And if you ever met Grayson, he's a tall, lanky guy, though. But I got to tell you, though, I really think you could get him right at the knees and you can cut him right off from there. Like, you can really take him out at the knees and put a damage on the guy. Alan Grayson is, in all intents and purposes, a complete whack job, though. There's no getting around the whack jobness.
And he's
Alan
winning
Grayson.
in the polls, by the way.
Is he beating Murphy in the polls?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, pull that up.
Donald Trump is winning in the polls. Come on.
I didn't realize that Grayson had.
No. Grayson, I'm going to Sunshine State News because they were the ones that I saw report it.
By the way, the one candidate that the Republicans would like to see make sure that wins that nomination would be Alan Grayson.
Well, yeah, because he's insane.
Because there is absolutely no way that Grayson will win a statewide seat in the state of Florida. It just ain't going to happen. This state is not made for somebody like this. And he is so... Look, the problem is that he is a scumbag. Look, I loved what he did when it came to going after the Fed. I thought that what he was doing there, it was great stuff. That can't overshadow how much of a scumbag he is, not only in personal life, but in dealing with people privately, and also everything else that he's done while he's up there. Like, he's an all-around disgusting human being.
So St. Pete Polls has Grayson out in front with 30% and Patrick Murphy at 23%.
Okay. With really large unknown factors as it stands right now.
Well, you got attorney Pam Keith. She's got 8. Of course, I just went to some. And you got 22% undecided. 17% say they support someone else.
All right. We'll see what happens. So you're going to have a Democrat primary, though. Now, Murphy is backed by the establishment of the Democrats, and Grayson is backed by...
Insane people.
Insane people, yeah. Basically insane people. He's a very progressive guy or whatever. So it looks like the Democrats are...
Progressive means insane.
Well, look. Everybody that supports them, I want them to talk about. I want them to stop talking about how they support women or any of those other things, because Alan Grayson doesn't support women, because Alan Grayson treats them like shit. All right, and I'm sorry for cursing, but that's just, there's no other way to say it. Look how he treated his wife. Just look how he did there. And again, so if you support him, then you support those actions. And if you support those actions, then you're a scumbag too, just like Grayson is.
Are you talking about Bill McCollum might get into the race?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. That was not who I was thinking of, and he should be ashamed of himself for even considering it.
I know, right? Even they're saying, like, seriously, like, you lost 3 times in a row.
Yeah, just get out now. Just get out. Nobody likes you. You're a scumbag too. I mean, you're not as bad as Grayson, mind you, but the Democrat primary is going to be that. But that ain't the only, now you're going to have, now let's look at...
Oh, Jeff Miller.
Jeff Miller, that's right. Okay. Jeff Miller is in this
Who's not
race.
officially in yet, but is considering a run.
He is a congressman up in District 1. So now you're going to have 2 congress people, the three congress people, and the lieutenant governor that are all running on the Republican side. On the Democrat side, you have 2 congress people, and now you have the third entry in this charade, which is the best one, which is the one I will support, which is Roger Stone.
Yeah, I am happy to have Roger Stone in that race.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not necessarily my first pick, but certainly better than anyone else who is announced.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, and also, Roger Stone does have to go through a primary here in the LP as well. There is another candidate running. However, because I am no longer a member of the executive committee of the Libertarian Party of Florida and I am free to speak my mind, I will say that we're not going to mention that guy's name on our airwaves. And you can deduct out of that whatever you choose to deduct out of that.
Yeah, but I'm not at all. No, I'm actually
Go
really
Stone.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have Roger Stone in the race, and I think it is going to be a good thing for the LP. I think Roger is going to get a lot of media attention because he's Roger Stone. I mean, a lot of people know him. He does bring in an element where he can be eccentric at times, but I think when you see the other field of candidates, I actually think Roger's eccentricity is actually still the most reputable out of the whole entire field.
Yeah, he'll be the only adult in the room. Well, David Jolly is an adult. I'm not going to say David Jolly's not an adult, but,
I would debate that. I saw how he dressed himself at the debates.
You are really upset with the brown shoes.
Brown shoes, blue suit, black socks. Yeah. I don't even remember if that's the combination. I just know it was three different colors, and I was like, "What?"
And Greg is sitting there. Greg is you guys were behind us, and he kept saying, "I really just can't get over his shoes. They just."
I couldn't. I talked about it the whole time.
The whole debate. Greg is like, "But those shoes, I can't even take them seriously."
I can't. It's like somebody wearing long socks with shorts.
So you're very judgmental when it comes to fashion?
Not necessarily, but I guess I'm more judgmental when it comes to coordination. Like there is a basic understanding of the color wheel that you get in elementary school, and if you can't carry that on through your future life, and at least be able to coordinate your outfit into the proper color scheme, then I have to question your mental capacities. I mean, are you insane? Are you deficient somewhere? I mean, what exactly? Yeah, what exactly the problem? What is the problem here? Because there's a problem. You're not normal. I mean, you dress better than that. You're able to coordinate your suits.
Okay.
Now
I just got to tell you, and I don't mean to be disrespectful here. I was just surprised at the passion that you spoke of this. That's probably the most polite way I can say it. Okay, Greg.
And I
didn't realize you cared.
I will say that Roger will always be the most fashionably dressed at every event.
That's actually very true. If this was a fashion contest, he would definitely win.
Yeah, there wouldn't even be a contest. Roger is very fashionable, always, and he stays up with the latest trends. Someone who's a older gentleman, worked for Nixon and Reagan, and he's around a long time ago, but up with the trends, always perfectly coordinated, very fashionable.
Up with the trends, but still wearing an eye patch and appearing as if he's a pirate, which is awesome as well.
And here's the thing, rocking an eye patch, by the way. You would think he meant to do that.
Yeah. It's awesome. It really is.
All right, look, we got to take a break, man.
Alex needs a reset.
We need to get a little bit of a reset here because we've really gone down a path. But at any rate, this is going to be the Republican, the Democrat, and the Libertarian primaries are all going to be very interesting. And I don't know what we're going to have at the end of the day, but it's the combinations that are possible are really, really good. And I think that what you might see this election cycle, which you haven't seen in election cycles past, is that race having a debate that is nationally covered. Roger Stone, it has a Libertarian up there.
I don't think they're going to be able to keep Roger out. His credentials in life.
I don't think they're going to want to keep Roger out.
No. Can you imagine Alan Grayson and Roger Stone being on the same debate stage?
It's only unfortunate because that means Grayson would have to make it through,
right.
And there's no guarantees of that.
But they have a very long-running feud. Alan Grayson and Roger Stone do. So that would just be that will be much more interesting than any presidential debate there's going to be.
However, think about it this way: if the three craziest people in those primaries win, the debate between those people would just be incredible. I don't think they're going to. Obviously, one person we're not even mentioning.
Right.
But I mean, if the three craziest people from the three parties actually win their primaries and end up on the stage debating each other, think of how crazy that would be. That would be an interesting.
Who's the crazy GOP one though?
It's hard to pick one.
Miller.
Maybe Miller.
No. The other guy.
Carlos. I don't know.
No. Go to the bottom of the list and then figure it out.
Oh, Eli, yeah.
Yeah, Eli.
But, here's the thing. The Lopez Cantera came out, and his slogan is, I am all Florida.
I'm all Florida. I'm all Florida.
So, it wasn't even like, I represent all of Florida, but just, I am all Florida.
I am all
Become death.
I'd like to do a mock debate where everybody pretends we're one of the other people. That would be fun. I
wonder if Carlos is going to be the jobby job guy.
Pull a string messaging center. So, all right, we'll be back in a minute. You're listening to Liberty Underground.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
For many years, libertarian candidates have been up against the political machines of the Democrat and Republican duopoly. Libertarians in Florida needed a machine of their own, and now they have it. The Florida Libertarian PAC was created to support principled, professional candidates here in the state of Florida for local and statewide offices. We are committed to seeing a libertarian victory in the state of Florida. We need you to make that a reality. Visit FloridaLibertarianPAC.com to get information on how you can see a libertarian victory in Florida. Political advertisement paid for by the Florida Libertarian PAC, not in conjunction with any candidates or candidates committee.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court points and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money
money in 15 minutes, it doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
Don't be mistaken. I believe in peace, but I won't be.
We're back. Liberty Underground 1787 Radio Network. If you'd like to call the program, the number 1-800-525-4032. Refresh Telecom. 1-800-525-4032. Oh, and our weekly plug for David Levitt. David Levitt running for District House seat number 29. Yeah, 29. Up against Scott Plakin. He's a libertarian. He's great. Dave4house.com. That's Dave, D-A-V-E, 4, the number 4, house.com.
Now, we were talking about all of the interesting dynamics that are going to be in the U.S. Senate race in Florida, but that also is going to leave an opening in District 13.
Well, hold on. Before we say that part, though, we have to go into the why is David Jolly doing it, though.
Well, yeah, and David Jolly, and he's been toying around with the idea of jumping to the U.S. Senate.
It was a thought.
It was a thought. People were talking about it, but he kept saying no, putting it off. But then the Supreme Court of Florida ruled that districts needed to be redistricted because they gerrymandered.
Which really means all of them do. But
yeah, which basically, if you have 8 districts out of 26, every time you redraw the lines, that affects all of the ones around it, and then, all of the ones around that. And so they're basically all going to be redrawn.
Yeah, hold on. So even if it dealt with one at a time, it's still 16 of them.
Right.
Like if you were only affecting one district out of the, if that district was only moving and it was only affecting the next district over, then that's 16. So that's almost all of them, no matter what.
Right. So, now David Jolly, which was pretty safe in his that was, a very safe red seat there.
Yeah, the Republicans drew that seat to keep a Republican in that seat.
Absolutely. So now with the redistricting, probably not going to be as favorable to be a Republican stronghold.
Well, no, because what they're doing is that what happened is that Kathy Castor's seat over in Tampa,
which butts up next to it,
which is a huge a huge Democrat seat.
Right.
Like they made that one for a Democrat. They took all the the area in Pinellas County that had the most Democrats
and put it in Castor's seat.
That's going to to the seat that Jolly had. So now that seat is going to be open, but it also opened up the area for person to get into this race, which is Charlie Crist.
Right. So now with Charlie looking at it being more favorable to Democrats, Jolly looking at a seat that is not as favorable to a Republican. Now Charlie Crist getting in that race, and the one thing you could say, listen, Charlie Crist has lost some elections and things like that, but the one thing Charlie Crist never does is lose his home.
No, he always wins Pinellas.
He always wins his district, always wins Pinellas in general. He's always carries it, and he carries it by a lot. I mean, this isn't close. He carries his home district by a very, very large margin.
Yes.
So with Crist getting into this race, he is not going to. I mean, he wouldn't keep the seat, and everybody knows it. It wouldn't even be close. Crist would win it. So if Jolly wants to stay in D.C., he had to jump to a new seat, and the U.S. Senate is one where he does have he actually has a good chance of at least being the nominee.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt with some breaking news. But let me give you some breaking news. Do you have like a do?
No.
You don't?
I
Okay.
know what you're gonna do too.
This is breaking news, and this is very, very big. By the way, this is some big, massive breaking news that we're having here on the Liberty Underground show. Adrian Wiley, former Libertarian candidate for governor, current chairman of the Libertarian Party of Florida, has officially, fully, completely cleaned his desk.
Now, for anyone who hasn't been in Adrian's office, which is just about everyone, you have no idea why that's such breaking news. But for those of us, like me and Alex, who have been inside that office, you would understand that it has been years upon years where you could even see that he actually has a desk in the room.
It's just piles and piles.
Yes,
of papers.
this is a very amazing thing. Where's the clapping? You know the clapping thing? Yeah.
I was not prepared.
Well, none of us were prepared for this kind of breaking news, by the way. I was never prepared for this. I like this.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, well, the funny part about it is that you only see you don't even see the whole desk. So, like, if you see the rest of the room, though, I think you would not.
Well, yeah, he could only take a picture of the desk so that you didn't see all of the mess on the floor and shelves.
Yes. So.
Because as Adrian calls it an office, I call it more of a storage facility.
Yes, that's true. That is very, very true. It is more of a storage facility.
The last time I was there, it did look like a storage facility for LPF marketing materials.
Yes.
Yeah. And, the funny thing is he did tell me, because Adrian took me to Manatee County last night, and he did tell me in the car that he had cleaned off his desk, and I was like, oh, you had a desk in there? So, yeah, but back to District 13. So Jolly not being safe, he goes over to the Senate. Chris jumps into the race for District 13, I don't even think you're going to see a big name Republican even get into the District 13 race. But there are some, and we're speculating on who's going to be on the Republican end. And I'm saying Kathleen Peters might jump back in.
Yep.
And we possibly might see one of the Latvalas jump in there. But I don't think it's going to be either Jack or Chris. I think it's going to be Susan Latvala that could possibly jump into that race.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And again, it's one of these games of political musical chairs. One guy goes to one place, that opens up, so other people fill in that place. That opens up for other people to fill in other places. So, you're going to see the movement going now. And none of it's guaranteed. Like, you got 3 Congress people that, are not going to be able to...
2 of them are going to lose.
Yeah, 2 of them are going to lose. Well, hold on. 1, 2, 3 of them are going to lose for sure.
Right, 3 are going to lose for sure. You have
and
5
that means that there's 3 open seats for Congress. There's actually going to be 5 open seats for Congress. So who fills those other seats is still also an unknown, because who's going to fill Grayson's seat, they don't even know yet.
Right.
Who's going to fill
DeSantis' Miller,
seat, Miller's seat,
Patrick Murphy,
and Murphy kind of, because Murphy was the first one.
Right.
So that one's kind of getting, maneuvered around a little bit. Oh, no. Cantera. Oh, because there's more than that there, yeah. Pantera, we don't know what's going to happen. Who are they going to pick for a new lieutenant governor? Not that they even have to, though, because he doesn't have to drop doing his job, though.
Well, he's like the second one. He would have to win he's the second lieutenant governor because it was...
Well, yeah, but the other one left out in the last term, though.
Oh, yeah, I guess this would be the new term, and, but...
So we'll see what Pantera does. You never can tell. All right, so we're done with that. The next thing is, I know you don't like the fact that I have zero ability to transfer things over.
It's really getting annoying.
All right, go ahead, do something.
I don't know where you're going, so I can't segue for you because I don't know what you're going to next. If you'd at least pull it up on the screen, I could see it so I could try to think of. But I have no idea where you're going, and you just go, okay, let's hold that right here and move on to the next thing.
All right. Speaking of issuing me a citation.
What?
You're giving me a ticket for my bad segues. So.
And they just keep getting worse, ladies and gentlemen.
And I would have to say, my segue could be, and if that doesn't make you want to smoke pot.
It looks like Alachua County is the 3rd county that has at least been talking about issuing citations for people that are caught with marijuana.
4th county.
4th county.
Monroe,
Monroe.
Miami-Dade, Broward, and now Alachua.
Yeah. Which, look, kudos to them. Kudos to all four of them, because if they're just issuing citations, again, I'd rather have it be completely legal. But if they're just issuing citations, then at least they're not ruining the lives of people who are caught with marijuana. Because if you just get a citation, that's not a bad thing. Doesn't kill you. So I'm glad to see that they're just going to be issuing citations. I do hope that more counties around the state start picking up on this. And it looks pretty good. I mean, if you got the largest county in the state, next to like the second largest county in the state, and then you got the Keys, Monroe, which again, that's not a large one.
That's like 8 people.
8 people. And then Alachua, which is not a large one either, but you got a good mix. So we'll see what happens. I like the fact, and the Alachua County Commissioners actually voted 5-0 on Tuesday to have the county attorney investigate whether the county can legally make the change. So, I think that they're going to be trying to get this done. They're looking for a little bit of an approval here, and nobody ever wants to be the first one. So I'm glad that they're deciding to be the first one on this.
Miami-Dade didn't care about being the first one.
No, they didn't care.
No, they broke the seal.
Yeah.
Broke the proverbial seal.
And they were like, yeah, screw that, we like pot.
Yeah. And it's with Miami-Dade, it looks like there's going to be a $100 fine, and that's it. Just a $100 fine. So that's really cool, by the way. I really, I'm glad. I'm almost speechless that we're even seeing this happening.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think it's a good thing. And I think that more cities need to do it. I think we need to start lobbying our counties to say this is ridiculous. The public is not in favor. In general, it's 80% of the public do not think that you should be incarcerated for marijuana possession. And that needs to mean something to our elected officials. And, and I think you're going to see it in the more blue-ish counties first. But I think that this is going to be something that every county in Florida is going to end up having to do. I think the trend is going in that direction, and I think when you have 80% of the people that don't believe that you should be incarcerated for marijuana possession, at some point, people are going to be sick of not being listened to on this issue, and they're going to start making a fuss about it. And I'm glad to see some counties taking the initiative to fixing it.
Exactly. This is the best. Quite frankly, I mean, we always advocate for being active as locally as possible, and to hold your local government accountable. And this is one of those examples of how important that is, because you can influence your government a lot better at the local level than you can at a federal or state level. And people are actually getting things done on a local level with this. We've already seen Miami-Dade do this. Now Alachua was talking about doing it. And this is happening because activism. They're not making these changes just because they're deciding to make these changes. People are going to them. They're going to county commission meetings and city council meetings, and they're demanding this. And we need to continue that trend. We need to do more local areas. I certainly want to try and get this moving forward in Pinellas County. I'm planning on to incorporate this into some of the things that we're doing in the near future. And I would love to see our municipalities bring it down to just a ticketable offense. Honestly, like Alex said, we all want this to be fully legalized. We want decriminalization, legalization, whatever. We want this off the books. We want people not getting cited or fined or anything for this, but we'll take the steps in the right direction on the way there. And this is a great step.
Yeah, no. I think it's a good step. Again, it's not the solution. It's a good step. And if we could stop people from their lives being ruined with the criminal records, I think that's a good thing. I really do.
No, I do. And I don't think that you're going to get the mass of the general public to agree that marijuana should be legal, although most, it is growing in support. What basically everyone does agree in is that you shouldn't be put in jail for it. And while let's move on that and start making it to where there's no need to be incarcerating people for this. So I think that we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of moving in the right direction or in the wrong direction, I guess depending on which way you look at it, Do you remember the 6th episode of Star Wars, which was the 3rd one that came out?
Episode 6, Return of the Jedi? Is that what you're
Yeah,
talking about?
Return of the Jedi, yeah.
Okay.
You guys remember that, right?
Yeah.
No, not at all.
You remember Jabba the Hutt in that one, right?
Of course.
And you remember that there was a certain time frame in which Princess Leia was captured and had a chain around her neck and a very skimpy little bathing suit on.
slave Leia.
Yeah.
Slave Leia, right? Well, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but they actually made a toy out of that.
Yes, I have it.
All right, well, so since the new, since the new one's getting ready to come out and the old, the first 3 have came out, a lot of those toys remade again. Mm-hmm. And the Leia one was actually remade again. And now parents are all outraged by this action figure, actually. Is that there was a gentleman, they were talking about how it's on, there's complaints coming in. He goes, I got this guy named Fred Hill. I got 2 daughters and I don't need them seeing that crap, said Fred Hill. They're like, Dad, why does this doll have a chain around its neck? I don't have any answers. I was just blown away looking at it.
Try watching the movie.
Yeah, first off, Fred, did you not see the episode before? Like, I'm sure you've watched Return of the Jedi. Like, did you not see this movie? And since you did, why that was going on, so you couldn't explain that to your daughters? Is that she was taken captive by Jabba the Hutt in a movie, and then she used the chain to kill him? Like, don't you look at the chain as much of a weapon or as much of a her down as it was the thing she used to kill her captor? Like, this is a woman empowering thing, I would think.
Yeah, Princess definitely one of the empowered women on film before it became popular. I mean, because when they showed up to rescue her, she ended up doing all the work. She pushed Luke out of the way and starts blowing.
Yeah.
She kills Jabba. I mean, Princess Leia was that empowered female long before it was the trend in movies.
She was kissing her brother, but I mean that's a whole different story. I'm not getting into that part of it.
What I don't understand is that, I mean, this is a toy that's been out. I mean, I get they redid it, but this is a toy that's been out since like the 80s, the early 80s.
Yeah.
This is like the 3rd or 4th version of the Slave Leia doll.
Yeah.
Actually, because I've got 2 versions. I've got the original from when Return of the Jedi came out, and then I've got the second one from the re-release when they released the movies in theaters again.
In the whole box set and all that.
So yeah, so I own 2 versions of that, and I know there's at least one other one. There's probably a 4th beyond that, plus different sizes and stuff. It's not like this is new.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. And this is specifically towards this Fred Hill guy and anybody that believes in the way that Fred Hill believes here. First off, you're a dad. I understand you have daughters. So why don't you do your job and explain to them why she had it and why it's a good thing, because she freed herself from her captors by utilizing that chain. So quit being a wuss. Man up. Stop listening to the damn PC police, because these people are just stupid. And just, be a man.
Just get the sand out of your vagina.
Exactly. Man, these people make me just again, it's a toy. What do you care? It's a toy. I don't want to have to explain to my daughter why she had that. Why? Because you didn't watch the movie and you don't know the story, you dumbass?
Well, listen, then don't buy the toy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you're so worried about having to explain it to your daughters, then maybe you just shouldn't buy it. It's like, just don't have it in your house. Problem solved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't like gay marriage, don't get one.
No, I must stop anyone from ever having it in their home.
It is a I don't know.
An abomination.
Abomination. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for, actually. Thank you, Greg.
My pleasure.
That's why you're Prime Minister of the Censor. All right, well, let's take a break here. We got top of the hour here. Let's take a break. We're going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk to, hopefully we can get him on the line. We're going to talk to Brandon Jones from the Global Dispatch about all the news that we aren't probably covering that Brandon will make sure that we do cover. You're listening to Liberty Underground.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
For many years, libertarian candidates have been up against the political machines of the Democrat and Republican duopoly. Libertarians in Florida needed a machine of their own, and now they have it. The Florida Libertarian PAC was created to support principled, professional candidates here in the state of Florida for local and statewide offices. We are committed to seeing a libertarian victory in the state of Florida. We need you to make that a reality. Visit FloridaLibertarianPAC.com to get information on how you can see a libertarian victory in Florida. Political advertisement paid for by the Florida Libertarian PAC, not in conjunction with any candidates or candidates committee.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Act or Arpessa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or TackleMyTicket.com. Attorney Arpessa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Arpessa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Arpessa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit TackleMyTicket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at TackleMyTicket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know, Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
Welcome back, Liberty Underground 1787 Radio Network. Hour number 2. Hopefully everybody is enjoying hour number 1. In the massive breaking news that we had in hour number 1, which if you want to hear it, you got to go back and listen to it. Massive breaking news, though. Statewide implications. It's really amazing. But now we are going to be joined by, in a second here, Brandon Jones from the Global Dispatch. He'll be on here in just a second, and we're going to cover
if you were
some.
listening to the commercial, that was the ringing that you heard.
Yes, that was Brandon. Yes, Brandon was calling in. We had to, because you only run commercials, and you can't run commercials and Skype at the same time. It's a whole thing. A little background, little back office stuff here. But it's looking like we're going to have Brandon on, and there's some really important news that we didn't cover in hour 1 on purpose because we actually wanted to cover it with Brandon because I think having his perspective on a big area of the show itself. So hopefully we'll be getting him on here in a second. The Leodol though, like I am going to ask him about that too because I know that he's a father as well as a Star Wars fan. So hey Brandon, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm very blessed. How is everyone?
Man, it's a little rainy out, but we're.
Well, you overused the Justin Bieber references for a lifetime, so we can't go there anymore.
All right, the first thing before we get into the very important news that's going on, and you actually something that's covered on the Global Dispatch, is that what was your take on the whole the parents outraged over the Princess Leia slave toy.
Well, I mean, hasn't that been a lifelong issue? I mean, since, 1983, parents have been outraged over the Princess slave Leia costume. And, I mean, I don't know, the politically correct nature of things. We're in the wake of a Dukes of Hazzard ban because of Confederate flags. I don't know, there's just so many things that there's not an ounce of that really does surprise me.
Yeah, well, I guess you're right. Now, something that has happened, and it happened just yesterday, is that a gentleman by the name of Mohammed Yosef Alba, I can't spell that, Brandon. Abdulaziz went into 2 Marine Corps recruiting offices in Tennessee and shot 5 people and injured some others, and then he got for that. But this gentleman, a radical Muslim, who I guess you could say kind of took what he was, what was going on from ISIS, and said, I'm going to go around and start killing some American servicemen and women here in the United States.
Well, I think there's still a lot more than needs to unravel from the story. We're not really sure how radical he was. We do know that he definitely of jihad. He spoke in a way, in a tone that sounds very sympathetic to traditional Islamic on those kinds of things. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to pick up a rifle and just start shooting people. So to connect those dots has yet to really be determined. He, of course, he opens fire on a Marine recruiting center, then drives 8 miles, hits the Navy recruiting center, and, that's where he was shot and killed. So really right now, we're still kind of in the very early stages of this. He's Kuwaiti born, but he's become a U.S. citizen. He's been here since 1996, and for the most part, they have not at least admitted that he's on any of their radar screens. They claim he was not. ISIS did race to all of their Twitter feeds and comment and praise him for what he had done and being a martyr and doing those things. So it is still an unraveling story, but it does show a little bit of what is really happening in the United States. And again, this happens on the heels of General Selva. He is the next in line for the Vice Chair of Joint Chiefs of Staff. He came out and talked about how ISIS is not a, quote, existential threat to the United States, talking more about, the nations that are like Russia, North Korea, and Iran. But it really does kind of show that we really have a lot of things that we need to be worried about. And our administration continues to have a very politically correct sort of approach to saying they refuse to use the words like jihad, terrorist, terrorism, Islamic militant. They don't use any of those terms, any of those words, and I think they'll probably be under attack a lot for that over the next 48 hours or so.
Well, look, here's the thing, as they should be, because this is an act of terrorism. I mean, with that, would both of you guys agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean. Yes, I would. I mean, I have to see more of the story. I saw it briefly last night, and I'm just kind of skimming over some things this morning. So, I mean, I would have to see more of the story, and if there was, links to. But, I mean, obviously this was a disturbed person who, harmed a lot of people, and I could say that it looks like a domestic terrorist situation.
Now, here's the other thing that I'm going to say about this. The other point I wanted to make here is, one of the things that we advocate for is that the NSA to not just collectively grab all the information from all of the Americans, all American citizens here. And I still believe in that, even considering things like this. I actually believe in it even more considering things like this, because these guys, and we'll see what comes out, but typically these guys, it's not necessarily private, their disdain for America and their support of jihad. Like, typically these guys kind of call themselves out on social media on things that, like, there's no right to privacy on. Like, if you want to go on Facebook and you see this guy's stuff, I'd imagine he probably made it public. Right. So it's not like that they would have to do much in order to be able to look at these guys and to be kind of, have this guy on a watch list or some crap. And the fact that they're looking at everybody's stuff means that they can miss things like this. So I think that the arguments that we make when it comes to that the FBI and the people that are tasked with defending this nation should focus on that, are strengthened by seeing things like this, not weakened by seeing things like this. Like, and again, they're not going to get everybody. People are going to be able to get through. In a free society, these things unfortunately can happen. I would say that the one thing that they need to probably start doing, if they're serious about it, is maybe arm the recruiters, for Pete's sake. When you're in your office or whatever, that you should be allowed to carry a gun. I don't see why they shouldn't be allowed to carry a gun, but what's your take on this, Brandon?
Well, obviously, the gun law thing is definitely one of the things that we've talked about several times on the show. We had the Navy Yard shooting. That was probably one of the most just blatantly just disregard for these soldiers, when they're actually on their base. We trust them with this type of military hardware regularly, but not on their own base. I mean, it just makes no sense whatsoever. And I couldn't agree more about the NSA. This just shows the incompetence of the NSA. How about you stop tracking all of us and actually trying to be strategic? So if we have anyone who's ever gone to the ISIS Twitter feed, then maybe we can track them. Let's just start with that. Let's make some common sense decisions and actually create some watch lists and some tracking that actually makes some sense. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it, but that seems like the right way to get warrants and have actual probable cause that this person could be a threat to society, a threat to a Navy recruiting office or a local mall. And right now it's just kind of a haphazard general program where they just track everything, and we have no idea what they're actually doing with it because these events still happen.
Yeah, and I know it sounds counterintuitive, but less is more. And it really is that if these people with keeping us safe, then they have to do it the right way. And just collecting everybody's stuff almost gives them it creates almost a moral hazard, by doing it that way. Danielle? I mean, you agree, though, that collecting all of this stuff does create a hazard here because it doesn't tell them that they have to pinpoint people, case against these people, and then take that to a judge in order to get the proper warrants that you would need in order to continue to track somebody.
Well, no, absolutely. I think that they need to stop collecting information on all of us and actually start collecting information on people that are putting things out publicly that they want to harm people.
Yeah. Greg?
No, I totally agree. I mean, somebody supporting publicly on Twitter certainly needs more scrutiny than all the rest. You don't need to be collecting data on calls and all our emails when it's like you said, these guys typically aren't hiding it. It's not like they're ashamed of the fact that they support jihad. They're very proud of it, and they're very public about it. And it's very easy to track these people and follow them instead of following all of us.
Yeah.
And we've discussed how the monitoring works. I mean, it's not like it's just they're tracking. They can track circles. So it's 3 circles away. So you're not going to find, even if you have the private terrorist, the one that wants to be quiet and shy, it's going to be pretty hard for him to stay completely off the radar screen, 3 circles away from all of his friends from whatever nation he came from. We don't have people who are traveling back and forth from Yemen and mean us good cause. So every one of them need to be kind of put on at least a little bit of a yellow flag. And then ultimately you get enough yellow flags, and then suddenly it should be a red flag. And we need to have FBI and NSA agents, and we need to have a program that actually does something about who these people are and take care of the problems before they happen. Right now, they get every file created from Google, Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, everyone under the sun. They don't even know where to begin. And that's one of the reasons that it's become such a joke.
Yeah. Now, and on the other side of this, when it comes to the reaction from the current administration, the fact that they're not calling it terrorism, the fact that they're not talking about how this guy was radicalized, the fact that they're not doing that stuff or they refuse to do that stuff is also very telling, and in a PC way is very dangerous. Is that you do got to admit these things when they come up. I mean, it's not like I think the problem sometimes is that their refusal to even admit that this is what's going on. Problem for me. Like I don't find it to be good. Brandon?
Couldn't agree more. Fort Hood is not a workplace violence. This is not a heartbreaking circumstance, and it is not infallible. Impossible to imagine this happening when the guy is speaking the way he has publicly. When they're shouting "Allahu Akbar" before they open fire. I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. Let's actually just start dealing with it and calling it what it is, so that we can separate them from the truly peaceful and apathetic Muslims that don't want no part of this. So if you really want to truly help the situation and get your arms around how to deal with it, then call it by name and ask the peaceful ones to denounce it with you so that we can isolate them from the population, make it easier to find them.
Yeah. No, Danielle, I mean, you think that, I'll ask you the question first. You do think that this should be called domestic terrorism?
I don't know. I've already answered this. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Now, also, when it comes to dealing with other countries in the Middle East, there is also an agreement that has been at least not all it's been signed, but it's still got to go through Congress, and that is the president's dealings with Iran. Brandon, I kind of want to ask you first, before I say anything here, I do want to get your thoughts on the whole situation on this instance of what's going on, whether the right moves are being made or the wrong moves are being made, and what's the either the problem or the good that is coming out of this deal.
You know, the interesting part of this deal is some of the comments that are made after the fact that they would never say over the previous 2 months that we've been talking and reporting on this. So, for instance, one of the remarks was that, well, now this will push their abilities to make a nuclear weapon out to a year, when it could have possibly been 2 to 3 months. They wouldn't even admit Iran was a threat. They wouldn't even admit that Iran was trying to make a weapon. But suddenly that language leaks through their conversation while they're trying to pat themselves on the back with this deal. We're supposed to somehow laud them for getting a cut of 2/3 of their centrifuges. Well, I don't know about you or me, but they have 1/3 of their centrifuges left, and they have $100 billion of cash that they're now going to get. That still remains some sort of a threat that I need to be concerned about, and my only ally in the Middle East, Israel, needs to be worried about. So the deal, sadly, is not an even scale balance. You know, it's not, the big concession is we allow them to be inspected. Well, that's kind of like part of having a program anywhere else in the world, is that you play nicely with the rest of the world so everyone can feel comfortable that you won't blow anybody up. So the fact that somehow is listed as a concession when it's kind of a minimum standard for having these programs is almost laughable. And basically, I hate to kind of side with the right-wing neocons here, but basically they're right. We gave everything away and really got nothing in return. And if anything, all we did was just kick the can forward a little bit past his administration, so it would be something that the next president would inherit as a problem. Really kind of just thumbs our nose again at our only real strong ally in the Middle East, and that is Israel.
Well, let me ask you a couple questions. Well, let me first off say, I don't think that the deal was actually a great deal. And the other thing that we talked about before in this show that I do want to mention, the fact that they didn't address the people that are now in jail, the Americans that are in jail in Iran, is a problem. That I think that the fact that they didn't get involved kind of shows that they're just not very good at this. Like the Obama administration is not very good at making deals. They probably shouldn't be in the business of making deals if you can't even get that part of it done. But with all of that being said, though, and maybe you don't view it this way, I do view it this way, is that sanctions do far more to actually hurt the people in that country than it does to hurt the administration, like the Iranian regime, and that regime is able to use things like sanctions as a way to keep their people in check and to keep their people hating us, because they can point to something like the sanctions and say, well, look at what they're doing because of these sanctions. We can't, kind of give you what you need as as citizens of this country, that you have to live crappier because of these damn dirty Americans, or whatever word they want to use. I mean, I'm sure their words are, death to America and all that kind of crap. With that being said, I think that anything that loosens the restrictions or eliminates the sanctions that are going on, at the end of the day, I think is a good thing, not a bad thing. So I think that's a step forward. The second part of that is, I don't have the same fear of Iran that a lot of other people have. I don't view them nearly as being as scary as a lot of people do. And I think that the nuclear part of it, I don't think that they're actually trying to make nuclear weapons necessarily. And look, I could be wrong. I don't trust their government, but I don't trust my government either and the stuff that they're saying. So I'm in a pickle in the fact that there's nobody that's the big talkers here that I'm even trusting at all to get anything done. And the narrative of like they're always 6 months away from building a nuclear weapon, like they've been 6 months away from building a nuclear weapon since like the 90s. You know, Netanyahu came over here over and over again talking about how they're so close to getting the bomb done. They're so close to getting the bomb done. At a certain point, I have to judge what he says with a lot of skepticism, because it seems like, well, you said this a long time ago and they still haven't gotten it done. And everything coming out, and again, you can't trust what they're saying, but everything coming out of them is saying that we're, doing nuclear for peaceful means, and we're not doing it for, we're doing it for energy or whatever. And maybe that's not true, but it seems like all the proof that we see lends itself to say that that is a more of a credible statement than that they're actually trying to build a nuclear weapon. So while I don't trust the Obama administration, I think they went about it the wrong way. I also think that lifting the sanctions is a good idea. And so I'm stuck at this point, Brandon. I mean, where are you at to react to some of that stuff?
Well, I mean, actually, I've spoken many times. I couldn't agree more about the prisoners, and obviously, I've been an advocate to release Pastor Saeed Abedini, who was, arrested for basically trying to build an orphanage that they actually said was state-sponsored when he first started, then suddenly become an enemy of the state, and he's been beaten and hospitalized several times. And the fact is that he and other Americans are in jail before we even have a talk, which does not be, even remotely. It's inconceivable that's where we are after the fact. I've never been a fan of the nuclear program for Iran when you consider they sit on a bed of oil. So for the concept of energy and all the other stuff that they're trying to do, it just makes no sense whatsoever. And I don't believe we should reward their bad behavior with the way they handle and support Hezbollah and Hamas and all of that. And I don't know that there is a perfect solution with this. I know that, yes, I agree, Israel has said, for 20 years, this is what they're going to try to do. But at the same time, there have been setbacks along the way. I mean, we can't necessarily prove, but we know Israel took out a couple of their facilities. We know that they're probably behind. It's not helping with the Americans whenever we had Iranian scientists that, were assassinated and or went missing. So there's been different setbacks. We know there's been, America did actually confess to one of the hacks that hacked into their nuclear computer systems or whatever and brought those down. So there's been things along the way that have delayed or at least, hindered their programs in the past. I don't know why we can't, stay that course and instead of trying to set down a deal that kind of just physically is more of the politically correct approach to doing this rather than something that actually has some geopolitical impact. I don't know that Iran is a direct threat to American soil, but we have a lot of interest there. Israel is our biggest ally, and I think we can try to, work with them to keep Iran fenced in and under control. And the fact that we, again, continually thumb our nose ally to sit down with Iran, I don't know if there really is an upside to that. And I do understand what you're saying. I agree with, the public. Well, first off, all of the propaganda that comes out of Iran is going to be death to America, anti-American. So the fact that the sanctions lifted or not lifted, I'm not sure that's actually going to get to the people and help the people and give them better lifestyle, or if it'll be used for, just propping up the regime. That's yet to be determined.
Well, and while I do I understand that part that you're saying, Brandon, but I think that if you do lift the sanctions, that while the state of Iran and the people that are in charge, who have massive freedom of speech restrictions on their people, the information still makes it to Iran. It still makes it in there. They're not able to, they're not even able to do what North Korea does when it comes to this information. And it's Korea, much more on a very bottom up kind of level, but it makes it through there. I think that the information will still make it to the Iranian people, and you have seen uprisings against, the current regime that's in Iran. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. So I think that lifting
but this administration did nothing to help that uprising.
But I don't. But here's the thing, though. I don't think they should. I don't think we should help these people in their uprisings. I think we need to do more to get the hell out of the way. I mean, we've done enough. We as an American administration, and this is not blaming America, but I think you have to take a full atonement to all the stuff that has gone either good or has been bad, and the unintended of some of those actions, and to what happened and again, you have to go all the way back to 53 to get through all of this. And that's the part that I think when you see it talked about in the mainstream media, that's never brought up except for very rarely when it's like Ron Paul that they're interviewing. is that you have to CIA did in 1953 and what Iran looked like before that. Like Iran was like a moderate place. Like Iran, the people were advanced. The women were not like they are now. The women were advanced. They were able to go to school. They had technology. Like they were moving forward in the world. And then they were going to socialize their oil fields. We had a massive problem with that. But again, we shouldn't, because we should respect the sovereignty of that country to handle their oil how they want to handle it. And we went in there and took out the democratically elected person and put in a damn dictator, and then supported that dictator until they got rid of him themselves in '79. But in doing that, what we did was we gave the power to that radical group that came in to take that dictator out. And so, like, some of these problems are things that were unintended consequences of actions that were taken by us, prior to that. I mean, do you see what I'm talking about there?
No, I mean, I'm well aware of the history there, and I don't think that blaming America for our history is actually the best way to approach moving forward. Even though I am definitely more for acknowledging the mistakes that we made, and as I've said many times, I'm not for continuing to intervene. I'm not for putting up an uprising or trying to arm some sort of green movement army that's going to try to overthrow the regime there. I don't think that's the right way to go either. But this administration doesn't really know how to handle this, and all they've done is try to do something that they can pat themselves on the back, try to put a stamp on his legacy, because whatever fallout there is from this will likely not manifest within the next 18 months or so. So he'll be long gone by whatever it is that's happening in Iran will come to roost. And that to me is probably the most disturbing aspect of this, because it doesn't seem as though, as you pointed out, the prisoners are not released. We don't really have a good gauge of where they are with being a threat to the region and how that can impact the region, positive or negatively over the next few years, because they contradict themselves even with their own press releases and their own statements to the public.
Yeah. I think the one thing that we all can agree on is I don't think that any of the governments that are in this situation we should trust.
Not at all.
No, not at all.
Now, what else out there, Brandon, was something that is going on that really needs to be covered, do you think?
Oh, I don't think there's a more important story than the Planned Parenthood story. That basically you have an undercover person that's videotaping one of their health executives talking about how to acquire body parts from aborted babies, and it is just sort of a shocking revelation of what Planned Parenthood does. It's a very disturbing proposition to believe that even if they're not, quote, selling it, which they're denying, they're saying now they have, quote, some sort of consent and it somehow works under a donation, that has totally been duplicitous to the public of what their role is, how they're handling abortions, how their clinics are being run. They've been under a lot of scrutiny over the years, using taxpayer money to run these facilities, where the money's basically inadvertently going to fund abortions, which goes against the conscience of many people that are against abortion. And it's just not really about women's rights. It's just really being corrupted by some other scheme, and someone is pocketing a lot of money and maybe need to pay some criminal charges here. So it's really kind of sad. I think the story has kind of taken the back seat because so much has transpired since the video broke. But I definitely think it warrants a lot more reevaluation.
Well, what's funny about that story is that this did get a reaction publicly from the head of Planned Parenthood, that she had to go out there and actually try to explain what was going on. And it is funny how she is kind of contradicting what was being said in the video. And again, it's you can say things are massively edited, but at the same time, like, how much can you edit what she said though? Like, it always seems like a kind of a misdirection. Like, you said it on video. It's not like you didn't say those things. And how much are you really taking out of context, and how much of it is she speaking about something that you wouldn't want her to talk about?
Well, when you're talking about, we can turn the baby around to make sure that we won't damage this portion of the body to make sure that you can get a liver, starts to be a very contradictory that is not communicated when we start to have a discussion on whether or not we should be doing these procedures or not at all. So if the body parts are suddenly so valuable to Planned Parenthood, then why are they, so protective of being transparent about, where's the money going, who's getting these parts, how all this happening. And this is because, you just can't buy and sell organs. This is not legal in America. So it opens up a whole different version of basically kind of a form we really have never seen before. And it really should be a lot more shocking and deserve a lot more place in the headlines than it's gotten.
Now, but was anything that they were doing illegal?
I'm sorry?
And again, I've seen this talked about a little bit, so I just wanted to ask you on what your thought was here. But is what they're doing considered to be illegal? Like, I know that, and I'm talking like spirit of the law, letter of the
organs, so that would be part of it. But I mean, more than that, they're going to. Let's just take the press release as fact in that, quote, they have women's consent, so therefore it's a donation. Well, that becomes a different argument altogether, and that is, as I said, that means there needs to be a whole new level of scrutiny. There's no way I believe that they have legally gotten the appropriate consent to inform women that this is what they do, and that's definitely not what the public believes they do. This has never come forward before to say, well, they do abortions, but the aborted babies then are harvested so that the organs can be used for something else. And then, of course, who are those organizations? Who are getting those? Are they licensed? Are they regulated? This is a huge thing. And, I've been intricately involved with organ transplant for years now, and it is a very highly regulated, highly scrutinized scientific field, and it is not something to be taken lightly. And the black market for this and all of that is just unscrupulous and very dangerous proposition. So that's an arena that whatever they say will open more can of worms for further investigation.
The bottom line is it could be legal if they have everything in line and all the proper, if they're not taking money, if there is proper documentation of consent, and if they're going to places that are allowed to take these type of things, then it would be legal. But because so not talked about and nobody knew it was going on, nobody knows if they were doing it in the legal manner yet.
And more than likely,
I would argue that there's no way it could be legal from the sense of within the way that the law is written for consent, because the child can't give consent, but it's the one that has the organs that are being taken. The woman can't she can give consent for her procedure to be done, but she can't give consent for the tissue in the child that they're going to terminate.
What can a child give consent for legally?
He can't, right?
But yet
the parents give consent for children.
Parents give consent.
Yeah, well, I mean, and at the end of the day, though, it looks like they were trying to be very sneaky about this, though. So I would imagine that they weren't actually trying to do. Yeah, and again, this is a weird kind of like very morbid kind of thing. Don't get me wrong, though. I am not a person that is opposed to the selling of organs, though. That we ought to take that away from the black market, and that you should be allowed to sell your damn kidney. And if you want to be able to sell your body parts, to be honest with you, I think you should be allowed to sell your body parts. I think moving that into the public sphere and getting away from the black market would actually be a good thing, but that's totally a different subject for a different day on something like that. I don't even want to equate that necessarily to what Planned Parenthood was doing, but when you're talking about selling organs, though, I'm not being able to sell an organ or two. You know what I'm saying? You want to be able to do that, go ahead, it's your business. Also on the Global Dispatch's website, though, is something about we talked about Donald Trump in the first hour, but you have some other stuff on here that it in some ways that Donald Trump has turned into the Republican Twitter troll of this election cycle, because like he's always sending out a tweet trashing somebody about something. And you have on there, you got Governor Perry failed at the border. He should be forced to take an IQ test before being allowed to enter the GOP debate. That's a tweet from Donald Trump to Rick Perry, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
yeah, I mean, I think that right now, let's face it, Donald Trump is leading a sideshow circus through our political arena, and it's almost become laughable. But at the same time, many of the issues that he's bringing up, he is stirring in Americans their frustration with the policies, with the issues. The unresolved nature of, let's say, immigration is the easiest one. I think it does a disservice. I think we also covered, Gary Johnson made a comment about it. It's just basically being racist. And I really disagree with his assessment of that, because I think it really is stirring supporters for him because they're saying, look, this illegal immigration is a real problem. And now we have reports that have come out and confirmed a lot of what Trump is alluding to is true. It's just his tact and his lack of being a politician is a problem. And I think that people are pressing that button on a poll. They're trying to promote his name so they can keep some of the discussion going. Most people know he's not a viable candidate in the end. And I think that right now he has, first of all, he's independently financed, so he really does not care whether he insults, calls people names. Rick Perry is just the most recent one, but he'll call them stupid, he'll call them idiots, he'll call them out, and he really doesn't care. And I got to be honest, in many ways, that's the reality show nature of what Donald Trump's all about, and that will appeal and amuse much of the American electorate.
Yeah.
Well, I actually completely agree with Gary Johnson, though. I think that, and I've seen a lot of the supporters of him that I've seen making comments, and the comments are not just concerned about illegal immigration. They are going to the line of racism. So the contingent that I'm seeing that are publicly supporting Trump, I think Gary Johnson, I can come to the same assessment as he did, that he is getting large amounts of support from a segment of the population that is very racist.
Well,
I agree.
No, and I've actually spent the time. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I've actually spent the time to listen to Donald Trump's speeches, to the entirety of all the things that he was talking about, and I gotta tell you, I don't even understand how a dude like that makes that much money when you're so untactful about how you make your comments. And the problem that we have also is that he will speak out of both sides of his mouth. Like, one thing he'll say all this stuff about how, it's just a bunch of rapists coming over, but then he'll clarify it and be like, well, I'm not talking about all of them. Some of them are good. Like, you needed the cover of, but some of them are good people to try to stay away from, it's like, but I got a black friend. Right. You know what I mean? It's like that. But the other thing that's the problem with Trump is, like, in saying that to Rick Perry, like in saying what he just said to Rick Perry, failed on the border, Governor Perry, he should have, been forced to take an IQ test before being allowed to enter the GOP race. Rick Perry is a governor, and the border is something that's handled on more of a federal level than on a state level. So how can you really say that Rick Perry failed on the border?
No, and when Rick Perry sent the National Guard to the border, someone asked if he'd be able to stop people from coming over the border, and he says, no, we actually are not allowed to, by federal law, to stop any person coming over the border, but we're putting the National Guard there as a way. The federal government does not allow us to hold anyone that's coming over the border, but we're hoping term, because that is something that a governor cannot do.
Hopefully by them standing there, people will stop crossing the border, because if they do actually cross the border, we can't touch them, we can't shoot them, we can't stop them,
we can't
engage, we can watch them.
Well, yeah, and I think that's my first problem, is that the guy doesn't understand. Like, he's bringing up the issue. Okay, I grant you all day long, he's bringing it up, making it, putting it right. However, he doesn't understand what level of government would deal with it, and he doesn't understand exactly how you would actually even accomplish this. And again, there's a lot of disagreement on how you fix immigration, so I don't even want to try to say that there's not a big, wide disagreement here, but we understand that the system is broken, and I would love to see it get fixed, actually, but I think that you have to address a lot more than, I'm gonna kick them all out and build a wall. Like, I think that's just politically naive to even think that you could even do that at all, because it's going to require that you actually have people that are willing to actually do those things, and I don't think you have that. I think that you have a massive problem right now, that the solution is, the libertarians are right on this, is that, making the process easier to come into the country, fixing the economy. As a matter of fact, I said this before, the one thing that fixes the immigration problem is actually the economy. If you fix the immigration problem, handles itself. And the reason is because we'll need all those people coming in for all the jobs that will be created, because we actually fix the economy. And that's what America's all about, is, we are a nation of immigrants, and it just so happens that the ones that are coming over now happen to be from Spain, or happen to be in Mexico, Guatemala, South America. We got people still coming from Canada, from Europe. They're coming from all over the world. But, there's a whole lot of them that are coming from Mexico, because those guys are right down there. And, considering we buy a lot of drugs and they make a lot of drugs in Mexico, we've kind of screwed up their nation because of our insatiable appetite for marijuana and cocaine. I'm sure you don't agree with that, Brandon, but
let's blame the 80s.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know what kind of crazy 80s metaphor we just walked into. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just going to leave it at that. Thank you, Brandon.
I'm just
appreciate
not,
you leaving
that's
it at that.
where it's going.
All right, let's get into some fun stuff, too, though. Are you and I'm sure you've been kept up to date on this, though, is that the San Diego Comic-Con, the comic convention, have you kept up to date with what happened there?
Well, I can tell you that there's no way I'm actually all the way caught up. There's still more that I'm hopefully going to get to today. So if you're on the site now, check back this afternoon, and we'll have even more that we're still trying to mull through. We have so much content to post on a lot of different topics, a lot of different things. A lot of movie trailers dropped, a lot of news that came out over the event, and yeah, we're still kind of trying to catch up with some of that. But there is a San Diego Comic-Con button you can hit at the top, and you'll see a lot of stories that are flagged as such.
Brandon, as soon as the Deadpool trailer is officially available online, I need you to send that over to me.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question. What did you think was probably the most, out of the things that you've seen, Brandon, what was the thing that was the most exciting, you think?
Oh, wow. Exciting is probably a difficult one for me. I mean, I don't really... I have probably a lot of different things that I think, are at least interesting to discuss. I think that fans are reacting. Obviously, there's a huge fanboy circle that will embrace the profane and violent-laden Deadpool that they've long awaited wanting. They think it's going to be the end of all, and Greg falls into that category, so there's a lot of hoopla around that. And similarly, the dark, edgy nature of Suicide Squad, which also will drop next summer, has gotten a lot of buzz. People are talking a lot about that. The irony is it's really overshadowed most of the TV shows. Not people are talking about much of the news that's coming out. We'll be posting this afternoon on some of the updates on Arrow and Flash and some of those kind of shows. The top of the news actually probably is the fact that the Batman vs. Superman trailer, which reveals a lot more of the story of why they go face-to-face, really kind of took the headline away from Star Wars and some of the other stuff, because they didn't really make a big splash. I think Star Wars will make a bigger splash. Next month, they'll be at what's called D23, which is Disney's big expo, and I expect more Star Wars news to come out then, because it'll be more of a controlled thing. It'll be the only thing people talk about. So it is definitely a big event, a lot of fun, a lot of good stuff, and a lot of nice escape that kind of leads into the rest of the summer.
Well, and it looks like the DC movies that are going to be coming out the movies based off of the DC comics that are coming out, looks like they're going to step up their game against what was going on with Marvel. And I think that's a good thing, though. It seems like they're all going to be a lot darker, though, than the Marvel ones, though. Like the DC will be a darker kind of movie themes. Is that the right word I'm looking for? Like it'll be.
Yeah, they've gone way dark with the movies for DC, and it's just going to get more so. I was very skeptical about the whole Batman Superman movie, and after seeing that trailer, I don't like it. I'm not looking forward to seeing the movie. We'll probably not put any effort into it.
Wow, I saw the trailer and actually liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was a great. Like I thought the storyline, at least from what the trailer was giving, I thought it was a phenomenal storyline.
I'm not even a Superman fan, and I thought what they did with Superman was blasphemous.
Really?
Absolutely. Ma Kent saying you don't owe these people anything. That is ridiculous. That you might as well just every piece of Superman canon that has ever existed and saying we're going to do this our way. We're going to make him who we want him to be. Well, it's ridiculous. What they're doing.
But you don't know his reaction to that, though. I mean, if people are saying that to him,
she would never say that, though. She would never say anything remotely close to that.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right.
I mean, he's supposed to have these awesome American values because he was raised by the Kents. When Ma Kent says something like that to him, it brings into question the whole values of Superman at this point. If that's what she's saying to him, that's what she's teaching to him, that's not the values that he's been taught that made him who he was.
Okay.
Yeah, Superman doesn't become the ruler of the earth and put us as subject under his foot because he's being raised by the Kents to be, selfless and generous and kind and using his powers for good. And that statement was kind of a little shocking that they're going to really continue to deviate very much from sort of the traditional roles of these characters. And I'm not real happy about the darkness of it all. I think that really was not going to be a big appeal. I think that there was, Man of Steel was not as successful as they wanted for a lot of reasons, and they don't seem like they have figured that out. Marvel has figured out a pretty good balance between, the light and the dark, and trying to keep still something that can be appealing to kids, that you want to take your kid or your son to 2 or 3 times. And on that note, Ant-Man was okay, by the way.
You think Ant-Man was just okay? Because I've heard some rave reviews about Ant-Man.
I've heard some crappy ones.
Ant-Man is safe. Ant-Man is, they didn't fumble the ball. It's another little new character, another origin story. It's got a very slow build-up when you're used to seeing Winter Soldier and Avenger movies that kind of explode within the first 2 minutes. So it's going to be a little slower to that. My son kind of joked, it's kind of like watching Iron Man meets Liar Liar, because you've got this big family sentiment storyline that's also going into it or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's okay. It's just good. It's in the middle of the road. It's kind of like, so many of these films where, now that you're on the 11th film, some of them have to kind of be in the middle. This is not going to be Age of Ultron. This is not going to be Winter Soldier. It's not going to be Guardians of the Galaxy. You got to lower your expectations because it's just Ant-Man. But for Ant-Man, it's okay.
That was punny. That was awesome on so many levels, that statement.
And this is something that our boys really, really want to go see, Ant-Man. So it is something that we're probably going to have to take them to go see, because both of the boys are just all about Ant-Man right now.
Yeah. No, and I'm happy. I'm glad that they're going to go and do that again, and it's going to fit in with the whole... I love the whole Marvel Universe thing. Anyway, though, I love all the movies, so
yeah.
It'll be nice to see. I'm glad that if Brandon said that it's okay, then at least I know that I'll probably have somewhat of a good time while I'm there.
Well, let me ask you this, Brandon, because something I have consistently heard from a lot of people that have seen it is that Ant-Man is the funniest of all the Marvel movies. Would you agree with that?
I don't know. Guardians of the Galaxy is awful darn funny. I really enjoyed the humor in Guardians of the Galaxy. It definitely strives to be the funniest. I mean, it strives to carry over. I mean, they brought in, Edgar Wright at one point was the writer. Then they brought in the Anchorman writer, Adam McKay. And so there's a lot of that's interwoven in there. And it has a couple laugh out loud kind of moments, but I don't know, man. I think Guardians is probably still a funnier movie. But it definitely is fun and entertaining. You're not going to be bored. You're going to have a good time. You'll get your money's worth. But this is not a movie that's going to make $1 billion or anything like that. It's not going to be the kind of movie you're going to leave and want to see 2 more times like Age of Ultron was.
So Ant-Man isn't going to be a breakthrough movie. It's not going to be the one that everybody's raving as the best of all the Marvel. In the middle.
Oh, no. I will be shocked if that's the case.
Yeah.
I will say that Kelly does not want to see this movie because she has an aspersion to ants. And so she says just on...
That's a downright fear.
And it is. And she's like, just on principle, I cannot support any movie that's about ants.
Casey's the same way. We cannot watch, about ants or something. I love watching army ants take something over on Discovery Channel, and she can't do it.
No,
So
Kelly's like, you guys can go see this on your own. I'm glad the boys want to see it, but I just cannot support that is glorifying ants.
They are evil and wicked and must be exterminated with extreme prejudice.
I think the biggest mistake they made was not opening on Wednesday. This actually probably would have been a good week to get a couple extra days of box office money coming in. Because it's good enough to not get negative reviews, so it wouldn't have been panned. It's like people would have saw it on Wednesday and bashed it or anything. So they actually kind of missed the boat on missing out on a couple, because it's a very big box office right now. Because Inside Out and Jurassic World are still doing very, very well, and of course Minions is not going to go away because it's just so much fun and people love taking their kids to those kind of fun movies. So Trainwreck has also got a really good review. We sent a reviewer for us, and she loved the movie, said it was very, very funny, and those kind of comedies do very well during the summer. So expect Trainwreck to also do well and pull a big box office number. So, Ant-Man may have his little work cut out for him to carve out a good little niche before we get to the August movies.
So you're basically saying that Trainwreck will not succumb to the name of the movie?
No, she liked it a lot. She thought it was very funny. It's got, the creators that are behind, Knocked Up and 40-Year-Old Virgin behind it. So it's going to be kind of that kind of funny, very raunchy, sex-themed storyline. So this time of the year, that kind of stuff always does very well. Hangover, of course, was, set the bar extremely high for those kind of films. So, expect it to do okay as well. I don't know that we're talking about numbers that are going to compete with Ant-Man. I mean, Ant-Man may pull $60 to $80 million, but with Minions and Inside Out and Jurassic World still showing up, I don't know. It's just going to be a very difficult week to see how some of that's going to shape up financially for some of these films.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I want to go see Minions.
Yeah.
I think Ant-Man has a big advantage in the fact that it's part of a larger series of movies. So, like myself, Ant-Man's not particularly my favorite character. I absolutely want to see it because it's part of the universe. So there are a lot of people out there, I think, who are the same way, who may not necessarily be excited about it, but they got to go see it because it's carrying on this story that we're all following.
You don't want to miss a piece of the story.
Well, yeah,
Right.
but the thing about that, though, is that are you willing to wait to go to video in order to see it, though? And
Right.
that may what happened. Some of the movies with the Marvel thing might be that I'll just wait for it to come out on video and I won't go to the movie theater for it.
Right. Although one thing I have heard from people who've seen it as well is the hidden scene, the post-credit scene, is an absolutely can't miss, critically important scene, and probably the most important part of the movie.
Wow. Well, there you go. There you go. All right. Well, his name is Brandon. Oh, hold on, Brandon. Is there anything else that's going on out there that you want to make sure that we cover?
We've covered a lot of ground this week, I have to say, but one thing we didn't get to, just so you know, it's back on the serious topic. By the way, there was a little bit of a movement. New Orleans Saints logo was racist, so I think that kind of whole thanks to people stealing Confederate flags off the back of trucks. But keep your eye out just in case the Saints logo becomes in question in the future. It actually started here.
Yeah. There is rumor that the word Brandon Jones is now going to be considered racist. So
it's been banned in many, many nations already, I'm certain.
Oh, man.
He's like the new Salman Rushdie.
All right. His name is Brandon. The website is theglobaldispatch.com. Brandon, thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate
it. Have a good week. Talk hard.
Talk hard. Always nice talking to Brandon. There's one other thing that I really wanted to get to today that is going to take more time than we have, so we're going to go into overdrive.
Okay.
We'll go into a little overdrive here.
Overdrive or overtime?
Or
both.
Overdrive. All right, but here's the thing though. Let's separate this out though. I actually want to separate this out. Was that a sigh?
No.
Were you upset?
No, I yawned.
Oh, you did. Okay.
She's bored.
Were you yawning because you're bored?
No, I'm just tired.
Oh. You want to? Well, let's do this. I want to do this. So, let's take a break. When we get back, we're going to be discussing in a little bit of a length here the utility company war that is going on in Florida.
Ooh.
So let's get into that. We're going to get into that a little bit. We're going to go into the overtime here, but let's take a break real quick, and then we'll get into that.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
For many years, libertarian candidates have been up against the political machines of the Democrat and Republican duopoly. Libertarians in Florida needed a machine of their own, and now they have it. The Florida Libertarian PAC was created to support principled, professional candidates here in the state of Florida for local and statewide offices. We are committed to seeing a libertarian victory in the state of Florida. We need you to make that a reality. Visit FloridaLibertarianPAC.com to get information on how you can see a libertarian victory in Florida. Political advertisement paid for by the Florida Libertarian PAC, not in conjunction with any candidates or candidates committee.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or TackleMyTicket.com. Attorney Oropesa the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit TackleMyTicket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at TackleMyTicket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the independent agent and the stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
Welcome back, Liberty Underground. The overtime time. You know, it's like we try to go to 2 hours and then we realize we want to go overtime sometimes. So we're going to go overtime here. We're only going one subject on the whole thing. So unless you guys want something else you got to talk about, but
No.
I want to get into the utility fight, the solar fight that's going on here in Florida right now, because it is something that is amazing to watch, and all the different aspects that are coming into play here are all something that really needs to be discussed.
Floridians living in the Sunshine State are not allowed to use that sunshine for anything other than skin cancer.
You know, it's. I know you kind of in jest, but there's a little bit of truth.
Partly
to that.
not.
Yeah, there's a little bit of truth to that. So let's kind of let's kind of work up to where we're at right now a little bit. So right now, and again, let's just say it like it is. Right now, the utility companies own the legislature. Is that true? Is that a true statement to say, Danielle?
I mean, I am hesitant to say that any one large lobbying organization owns the legislature, but I will say that there's a few that have a significant amount of influence, and one of them is the electric companies.
I don't think they individually own it, but they hold shares.
Yeah.
They
got a timeshare.
They're large share owners. I mean, there's some other the gambling industry, as far as the Indian casinos, hold a very large amount of influence. You have some of the agriculture companies like U.S. Sugar that holds a very large amount of influence. So, I mean, there's a co-ownership between some of the big special interest groups, but a very large one happens to be the utility companies.
They're shareholders.
When it comes to what happens as it relates towards electricity here in the state of Florida, the utility companies have the say-so of what goes on when it comes to legislation. Fair, I guess that's probably a pretty fair statement.
They have a very large amount of influence over any legislation that even uses the word utility.
And quite often, a lot of those different shareholders have aligning interests. You'll get a result that looks like the utility companies, force this result, but actually the utility companies, the agriculture companies, the casinos, everybody kind of are on board with this.
All right.
So now we are only like one of 5 or 4 states that doesn't allow for something called third-party leasing. So,
and that's a little bit of a misnomer. There are other states where it is technically illegal, but they don't enforce the law.
okay, all right, fair enough. But there's a lot of states that allow for this, though. That's a true statement to say.
Yes, that is a true statement.
And that a state like Florida should be one of those states that allow for it because, again, we're the sunshine state. I mean, when it comes to the sun, even though today's probably not a good example of this, this whole week hasn't actually been a good example of this. But we get a lot of sunshine here in Florida. We have a lot of beaches for that reason. I mean, people come to Florida to see clouds. They come to see the sun. So our state should be, in many ways, kind of leading the charge in what happens when it comes to solar. But because of our legislature and because of the government-sponsored monopoly that the utility companies have, is that while you are legally allowed to buy solar for yourself and to put it on your roof and to use it, the rest of it is there's a lot of restrictions on you as an individual, and also you're not allowed to sell the excess electricity that you're able to create. So if you can create the electricity yourself, you can't sell it to anybody else. There has been attempts to get this changed legislatively, and that has met with massive resistance from the electric companies, and they have gotten their way. They have won every time up there. So far so that if a politician even goes about doing this, that they are persona non grata after that, is that they are on their own, man. They are cut off and outcasts in the state legislature. So a bunch of people got together, and it was people from all sides, whether they want to admit that or whether the utility companies and the minions that they have that go out and speak on their behalf, whether they want to admit it or not, these people that represented left, right, up, down, all around, got together and put together a ballot initiative that allowed for third-party leasing and allow for individuals and for companies, other companies, to be able to sell electricity up to a certain level. Now, it wasn't unbridled. It was up to 2 megawatts. That's really what it was. Per location, it was up to 2 megawatts. That this was, this is something that they're getting petitions for now that is being put on the ballot. And that one is done by Floridians for Solar Choice. What we saw almost immediately from the beginning was groups that claimed to be free market groups come out in defense of the status quo, of the government-sponsored monopoly that we have today. Now, and whether they want to have the intellectual honesty to admit that doesn't change the fact that that's exactly what they're doing. As a matter of fact, at the press conference, the thing that I said is that you could very easily tell who actually supports free markets and who doesn't by who's going to be coming against this and who's going to be coming for this, and who is taking the lead from the utility companies and the people that actually are pro markets vice being pro business, because there's a huge difference between the two. So, Floridians for Solar Choice put them as AFP. When AFP goes after them, that gets kind of stopped right off the bat because AFP didn't go about it the right way. They end up having to change what their press conference is going to be about. They put out talking points to start off with, which were summarily, demolished one at a time.
You're welcome.
By Danielle. Who, in all honesty, and Danielle, please give the disclaimer.
I do not support or oppose ballot initiatives. I'm completely indifferent to them. I watch them because anytime you have a ballot initiative, that also correlates with legislation if it passes. So I watch them to be ready for the legislation as it's going to come. But the ballot initiative itself, I don't support or oppose it. I'm completely indifferent and neutral on the subject.
But with that being said, when it comes to ballot initiatives generally, you don't support them.
I tend to shy away from supporting any ballot initiative. I have a very, very high standard for what I want to see in the Florida Constitution. I do understand that this has been a way for the people of Florida to exercise their right when the legislature isn't listening to them. I can't say whether it's the correct way to do it or the wrong way to do it. It is a way to do it. And I think that they have the right to do that, and that's fine, but I shy away from ballot initiatives and being supportive of them. I like the fact that I I'm with an organization that stays neutral, and that is exactly where I like to be on the issue.
Yeah, and so for Liberty First, for one of the for the lobbying side of what it is that we do, don't support or oppose it. Now, I'm also a libertarian, member of the Libertarian Party of Florida. I actually think this is a phenomenal idea. I totally understand why it needed to be done, and I totally support the ballot initiative. So I am in total support of the ballot initiative, and I think that the reasons that I am in total support is, while I agree with Danielle that this should be a that this should, you be careful before doing any of these things, I think that in this situation, given what we talked about beforehand, that this is the only way that you're going to be able to get anything done, even if this was only used to pressure the legislature to do it themselves, which they could do it themselves in the 2016 cycle, that even if that was the only thing that happened from it, I still view it as a victory, and I still think that the ballot initiative is a good idea. But I want to make sure Danielle says what she says, because I do want you to understand that there is a difference of opinion when it comes to this all around.
And I do want to say that as you or I would be supportive of something does not mean the other one would. I think that we disagree with each other just for sport sometimes.
Well, you do that, not me.
But I will say that, I mean, I think we each are very strong in our opinions. We respect the other one's opinion, so it doesn't cause problems for us, but we definitely have our own way of viewing things. And just because one of us supports or opposes something does not mean the other one will automatically.
Yeah. Now you have to go into, like, the Faith and Freedom Coalition came out in opposition to this, and the Heartland Institute has come out in opposition to this, and that these guys have gotten together to do this. But in doing this, they have sent it to go and do debates by the name of James Taylor. Now, while he'll admit, and I will admit as well, that there is a lot of things that the Heartland Institute, and even AFP for that matter, goes after, and I applaud them for their efforts to go after some gone after. I disagree with them on this issue. And I do feel that how can I say this the right way? The manner in which you argue about something tells a lot about your character. I think that's the right way to say it. Is that when you get into, you never really, God, I hate to use a Matrix quote here, you never really know somebody till you get in a fight with them, though. Till you're willing to see what they're willing to do in order to have a debate or to go after these issues. And that some of the things that are said are very misleading side of the fence. That some of them have been outright lies, some of them have been very misleading, and I think it's been misleading to the point of, to be honest with you, some of the things that have been misleading almost seem to me to be insults, because you should know better than to say some of the things that have been said. But then you get into the next thing, and the next thing has nothing to do with James Taylor, at least not from the face of it. What the utility companies did is they went around and grabbed some of the establishment people from both sides that are all bought and paid for by the utility companies, and they have now formed another petition. So they were against ballot initiatives until they were for ballot initiatives, and have now put out a ballot initiative. But that ballot initiative is literally just saying what you're already allowed to do.
I find the second ballot initiative, just on review and analysis, to be more of a protectionist initiative, that it is solidifying in the state constitution exactly the environment that's going on right now.
Yeah. So this is a let's keep the status quo ballot initiative.
And keep it from being changed.
Yeah. And the whole thing, like, if you go to their website, what their website does is initially trash the Floridians for Solar Choice website. And one of the things and this is where the funny part comes into play, is that you have these groups that tout principles, that tout them all day long. We're free market, we're free market, we're free market. But then we'll say, as soon as somebody goes, well, let's free up the market to allow these people to do this, now all of a sudden predatory lending comes into play, and that you're too stupid to be able to read a contract that you're going to sign, so we're going to bar that practice from happening, and that we do need regulation, and we do need oversight, and we do need all these things. So in one hand, when it benefits them, the free market is the flag that they're going to stand on. And then as soon as somebody actually puts something forward that would be free market, they abandon that principle right off of the bat to defend regulation, to defend oversight, and to somehow say that because you're, and again, this is, they didn't say this specifically, but this is what they mean. Whether they want to admit this or not, this is exactly what they mean. Because they feel that you're too stupid to read a contract, that they need to be able to protect you, so you don't even have the ability to read and sign a contract yourself. That's what they're saying. And Danielle, am I lying about that?
I don't like to put words in other organizations' mouths. They're not saying the words that you're too stupid to understand it, but they are definitely making the that they would like to pervert the free market by putting regulation in a situation that would be protected within the free market, that people that are using predatory contracts, that would not be the vendors that the people would choose, because they would choose ones that are using good business practices and ones that are reputable, aren't being predators. And that's something that the free market itself would kind of regulate and things like that, and that people would be the final arbiters of that. And there's definitely organizations out there saying that the market in that instance isn't something that they believe in, that they would want government control.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So what this group did, which is now the competing group, Consumers for Smart Solar, they launched this initiative, and they went and had a press conference with it, and did the whole thing with it. They went ahead and said, we're going to put this out. But in reality, what they did was they held a press conference to attack what's currently going on. And if you go to their website, what it shows is right off the bat the tale of two amendments, and they call one the Shady Solar Amendment and one the Smart Solar Amendment. So this is it. So what they did on the Shady Solar side is designed to benefit out-of-state solar companies. That's what they did. That's one of the things that's a negative against the Floridians for Solar Choice. Danielle, is that statement accurate?
No. It's not accurate, because I have looked through the ballot initiative language, and in no part does it give any special exemptions or circumstances to a company that would be out of state. It would make every company be able to compete for your business, but not one company would have any special circumstances over another one. The ballot initiative itself is not picking out-of-state companies over in-state companies. And when I look through the campaign finance reports, the majority of the companies that are actually donating to this initiative actually do reside in the state of Florida.
Okay. Now, the next thing that they posted when it came to a negative on the Floridians for Solar Choice initiative is, it says it leaves consumers vulnerable to fraud and abuse. And that they're saying that theirs would protect solar customers from fraud and abuse. Now, I actually want to comment on this one. The problem that they are talking about here is this. You want to talk about fraud and abuse? How about you have been billed for something by the utility companies that they were never going to build, and they're still able to fine you or to tax you more money for this currently. If you want to talk about fraud and abuse, keeping the system as it is right now is about the quickest way to continue fraud and abuse, just that it's more managed by the government. The fraud and abuse that they're talking to is the contract thing, is that there could be possibly predatory contracts that people would sign, and that those contracts would be a bad thing for the consumer. But they don't have to sign those contracts. Nobody's forcing them to sign those contracts, but don't pay the extra money that you are forced to pay now to the utility companies for something that they're not going to build, and find out what happens to you if you don't do it. So you want to talk about somebody forcing fraud and abuse, it seems to me that the current system is the thing that forces fraud and abuse right now. Danielle?
I would say that definitely there's a predatory situation going on currently that is protected in the Florida statutes, with the utility companies being able to bill you for a service that they never intend to provide you. I think that when it comes to contract law, there are definitions within contract law that says that a valid contract has to meet certain criteria, and if these contracts don't meet that criteria, You would still have legal recourse, but at the end of the day, it is up to you as a consumer to know what you're signing and to sign things that are beneficial to you and not harmful to you.
But let me just say this: but if you are an organization that touts free market principles, wouldn't you think that giving the consumer the power to make the choice would fall in the range of that, and arguing against that would be arguing against free market principles?
Yes, absolutely. And this is something that I said. Last night in a forum, that the essence of the free market is that the consumer is the final arbiter of what companies will survive and what companies will not. And the reason they do that is if there's a large amount of companies that are using predatory contracts, that opens the market for a company to come in and do business ethically and do business in the right way, and everyone will do business with that company, because that's the essence of the free market. That people that are using unscrupulous tactics will not win in a free market because people don't want to be taken advantage of, and that the consumer should be the final arbiter of what is right and what is wrong, and not the government.
And it's the consumer that holds those companies accountable by not doing business with them.
Yes.
All right. Now, the next thing is, it says it prohibits consumer protection regulation. That's what it says that the solar amendment does, the Floridians for Solar Choice amendment does, is that it prohibits consumer protection regulations.
There are still what the ballot initiative does, it says that the solar companies cannot be regulated except for in the instance of public health and safety. What this is trying to say is that if you could sign, there would be no protection if you signed a bad contract. But technically that's also not true, because there are standards of what makes a valid contract and what makes an invalid contract. So that would still fall under the contract law. So in a valid contract, you have to completely understand the terms of the contract, and that has to be explained to you, and that you have some protection that you weren't under duress, and that there was consideration to both parties. So both parties had to have some consideration. You had to get something, they had to get something, and if one person is lopsided in that, a contract can be called invalid. Now, the part of the constitutional amendment that says that there's no regulations would not supersede the actual definition of a contract. So you still would be protected under a contract that would be away to one side over another. And a contract could be considered invalid, even with the wording of this ballot initiative, that a contract would be completely invalid if you didn't understand the terms of the contract, and it was their negligence to not tell you the terms of the contract before you signed.
The last thing that they write on this one is that it's higher costs for non-solar users. And what they're talking about is that if someone is utilizing the grid but yet not paying electric costs for that grid, that they're somehow not paying their share, and that'll put the cost onto the people that aren't putting solar onto their roofs, and that the government couldn't do anything about that.
Well, and here's the thing with that, is that every house that sits empty without electricity is also connected to the grid without paying for it. And we certainly wouldn't start forcing people who owned property that they had to pay an electric company for a service that they wouldn't use. So that's just absolutely ridiculous to say that, if you're not using a service, that you're projecting that cost onto someone else, because an electric company's business model shouldn't be dependent on government forcing you to use that service. So what this will do is make the electric companies have to innovate and become more efficient as they provide service and as they take care of the grid because of these things, because you cannot rely on government force to keep your business model safe.
And I think I'm glad you said that, Danielle, because that's the one thing I was going to say here, is that what the utility companies are really upset about is that they've built a business model based off of government force, and that they want to protect that business model based off of government force to not allow for competition. This amendment, the Floridians for Solar Choice Amendment, allows for that competition. And there's nothing that they hate more than competition. Now, don't get me wrong, the government was the one that caused the problem to begin with by giving the government-sponsored monopoly to the utility companies. So I'll freely admit that the government screwed up in the beginning, but you don't fix the screw-up by continuing the screw up. You fix the screw up by getting the government out of it as best as you possibly can and to allow for more free market competition in the marketplace. And the thing that is also talked about here is that they say that the Solar Choice Amendment is a government, is a monopoly, is a continuation of a monopoly, that they're giving the solar industry a monopoly. And that's so far removed from the truth. But why is that removed from the truth, Danielle?
Well, the very essence and the very definition of a monopoly is that there is only one company that a consumer could go to. The solar industry, and I get when you say solar industry, it sounds like that's one entity that you can use. But the solar industry is actually made up of hundreds of, and that within this ballot initiative, there could be even more companies that enter into the market. So the fact that you would have hundreds of choices actually precludes it from being considered a monopoly, because a monopoly would be that you only have one choice, and in this way, you would have hundreds of choices within the market.
And Danielle, I just want to ask another question. As it relates towards the status quo, which is what we're currently doing right now, how many choices do you have now when it comes to who you want to buy electricity from?
You only have one option on who you'd like to purchase energy from. I want to make that distinction that you can only purchase electricity from your designated utility company. You can buy outright solar panels and put them on your roof and have solar, but if you produce more solar than what you currently consume, you cannot sell that product to another person, and you cannot allow someone else to put solar panels and buy that electricity from that person. You can only purchase electricity from the designated utility in your area.
All right. So, in laying all this out, the utility companies are going all the way out on this one. And the reason they're going all the way out on this one is because they realize what is known to pretty much everybody else, is that if this gets on the ballot, this passes. Unless they're able to put something else on the ballot to confuse the voter to stop this thing from happening, which is what they're trying to do with the Smart Solar Amendment.
Well, and I do want to say this, is that these two amendments contradict each other. And in the case of two ballot initiatives being on the same ballot that contradict each other, if they both pass, they both become null and void, and neither one of them get added to the Constitution.
Which is what the utility companies are trying to do. Now, in all of these organizations, there are people that are working these organizations. And at this time, I actually want to mention the names of all the people that are part of the Smart Solar initiative. Dick Batchelor. And if you don't know anything about Dick Batchelor, and his first name is very apropos, Dick Batchelor is a former Democrat member of the Florida House of Representatives, more than 35 years of business and public affairs experience in Central Florida. So this guy was a politician. He served as the chairman of the Florida Environmental Regulation Commission. He's also been, let's see what else here. He serves on the boards of the Florida Children's Hospital, Florida Foundation Board, First Amendment Foundation, the Central Florida Urban League of Board of Directors, Children's First and Florida Tuskegee Airmen Board, honorary chairman of the Dick Batchelor Run for the Children. Weird. He's one of the most 50 powerful people in Orlando, Central Floridian of the Year, Businessman of the Year, and Best Corporate Citizen. So this guy's got a whole lot of a track record, but the one thing you want to say here is he's an establishment Democrat. This guy by the name of Jim Callinger, he's a former Republican Florida House of Representatives in Central Florida. He served as the chairman of the Business Regulation Committee and vice chair of the Select Committee of Constitutional Amendments. Let's see what else here. He also serves as the president of the Florida Faith and Freedom Coalition, which is a great organization that's already come out in opposition to this. Now, I will say this. One of the things that the Florida Faith and Freedom Coalition came out to say, though, is that they were against constitutional amendments.
Completely.
Yeah, so they were against them before they were for them. Really good there. So that guy, again, the Faith and Freedom Coalition, you might want to resign from that one, considering that it doesn't seem like you have a whole lot of faith in doing the right thing. The next one is a guy by the name of Scriven. says Screven. Screven Watson, Florida Executive Director of the Florida Democratic Party. He Chief Cabinet Aide of the Agricultural Commission, Bob Crawford. So he's definitely a guy that leader of the Florida Senate and House of Representatives. So this wig when it comes to what is going on with a big wig in the establishment here. The next one, Billy Tucker. You may not know the name. You may know the name if you've listened to the show for a long, long time. I guarantee you've heard the name before. Billy Tucker is a party leader and chairman and CEO of the Grassroots Victory Tour, a nonprofit dedicated to the preservation and promotion of Americans' founding principles. Honestly, do you have the laugh line there? Can you play the laugh line real quick?
Quick? No.
Yeah. Billy Tucker wouldn't know America's founding principles if it jumped up and bit her in the face. All right? Billy Tucker is a GOP establishment operative who is one of the people that actually co-opted, who is part of the co-opt of the Tea Party movement, by the way. So make no mistake about this one. This woman is a bad person. I have extensive experience with her. She is part of the people that made sure that only Republicans were allowed to speak at Tea Party groups and that libertarians were not welcome at these groups at all. She is a person. And this only goes to cement my feelings on this woman anyway, though, because it just makes sense that she is supporting, that she is a stoolie for the utility companies. This is the thing that they're trying to say, well, we got grassroots support by Billy Tucker. The last grassroots person in the world you'd ever want is that woman. All right, next one. Julio Fuentes is president and CEO of the Florida State Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. He founded it in 2000 because of the tremendous growth of the Hispanic population. He's got 38 chapters now, 80,000 minority-owned business. So this is a guy that the establishment went and fined. He's the Hispanic pro-business community instead of the Hispanic pro-markets community. An establishment guy, nonetheless, just happens to be Hispanic. Matthew Carter. Oh, boy. Matthew Carter is a former Public Service Commission chairman and current member of the governing board of the state university system. Let me say that one again. Matt Carter is a former Public Service Commission chairman, the PSC. The PSC is the Public Service Commission. That is the organization that basically runs the utilities, right? I mean, they don't run them, but they're the regulatory agency that runs that deals with the utilities. These guys are one of the people that are in the way when it comes to what we're doing. These guys are bought and paid for by the utility companies. I'm sure this guy still has checks that say Duke Energy on them. He did serve in the Florida legislature for 7 years. He was a staff director, policy coordinator, and council director for the House for 5 years, from 2010 to 2012. He served in the Florida Senate as staff director for the Communications, Energy, Utilities Committee, Affairs, Space, and Domestic Security Committee. In March of 2012, Governor Rick Scott appointed Matt to the Florida Board of Governors, the statewide board charged with oversight for Florida public universities. Again, this guy, what you've seen here is the establishment that is the thing that is there to be the protectionist wing for the utility companies. There's no getting around that. They literally wrote something that doesn't change anything at all. Yeah. This is what they're doing. This is how far these people are willing to go. Consumers for Smart Solar. This is how far the utility companies are willing to go to stop you, the individual, from having a place in this industry. That's what they're willing to do. And whether they want to admit that or not is inconsequential, because here's the thing. You can try to run debates in Tea Party groups all around the state of Florida if you choose to do that. You can try to stack the deck, rig the game, put it in your favor. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. It won't change the fact that this thing's making it on the ballot and it's going to win with 70% of the vote. And I'm glad you guys are coming out in opposition to it, because what I've been saying for years is that people like you are establishment tools, and now you have outed yourself. Because that's what you've done. You have outed yourself to be the establishment pricks that we all knew you were. Libertarians all day long knew who you were. And there were conservatives on the other side of the fence that were like, no. That's not really true. Those people aren't really like that. They ain't singing that song now. And you might be able to go into friendly places, and you might be able to, try to keep telling yourself and lying to yourself that you haven't just put on your knee pads for the utility companies in the state. But here's the thing. You can't take those knee pads off fast enough at this point. And this thing's going to pass. You're going to lose. And not only are you going to lose, but the thing that I wanted to see out of this is happening. And it's happening in such a glorious manner. Is that people outed because you don't believe the crap you're shoveling. You don't believe in free market principles. You don't believe in being pro-markets instead of being pro-business. You are bought and paid for by the establishment, and you have proven it. There's no getting around this. And I will go in there and be nice and do debates in a nice way. If I'm asked to do them, I'll totally do them in a nice way. But let me tell you this. On our airwaves, I'm not going to be nice. I'm not going to be civil. I'm not going to be cordial. I'm going to tell it like it is. Again, when I go to other places, I have respect for those people, and I will act in a respectful manner in those places. My house, my rules. I get to say what I want here. And you don't have to like it. You don't have to listen to it. I don't care either way. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, you're going to lose. Go and fight subsidies, and we'll still go and fight all the problems and the regulations and all the crap that's going on in Tallahassee right now. When you guys go away and go support, I don't know, the tobacco companies for cigarettes, or go support whatever you freaking people want to go support. Whatever the utility companies and the oil companies are going to pay you to go and support, while you fake your support of the free market. I'm so annoyed with people that claim to support the free market and then use the word "but" afterwards. You support it or you don't. Because you know who says "but" afterwards? Car salesmen, politicians that are lying to us.
And we say this a lot. Every time I'm up in Tallahassee, I'll be sitting with a legislator, and at least once every session, I hear, "I am the most free market representative up here," and then they explain to me why we need regulation. And I heard this last night. I heard, "I am against regulation by far, and then explained why we need regulation, and then went on to say that they would support another initiative that just said everybody could buy energy, even though right before then they said that they wanted regulation. It was very bizarre. I didn't even know.
These people that pull these games do something far worse than arguing over something as like the solar initiative. They are there for one purpose and one purpose alone. Now, maybe not one purpose alone, but this is one of the purposes that I believe that they're there to do. They don't actually want to educate the public on free market principles. They don't want to. Because educating the public on free market principles would have the overall thought process of you're educating people to make the decision for themselves. One of the things that I think that Danielle, myself, Adrian, Greg, and many, many others that are libertarians pride ourselves on doing is that ultimately we want people to have all the information in order for them to make their own decisions. That we don't want to coerce a decision out of them. We want to educate them on the decision, why what we're saying is right, give them the good and the bad, and let them make their own determination. Would you say that's a very fair and accurate way of how we, as a grouping of people, want to go about doing this?
Yes.
Yes.
That shows respect for our fellow individual, for our fellow man. That shows, in my opinion, that shows respect. That we will go to groups and we can disagree with them all day long. And we can say they're wrong on this, they're wrong on this, they're wrong on this, all day long. But at the end of the day, all we want is our ability to go to people, explain what's going on, and let them make up their own mind. What we do, and what has been being done by the opposition to this initiative, is that they will they will basically lie, that they will misinform, that they will not give the entire story, that they will cherry pick information that's not even accurate in a way to dissuade them from looking at the truth. They will try to use buzzwords of things that don't make a lick of difference to what's currently going on right now in order to try to dissuade somebody from actually knowing the truth. And that, in my opinion, is one of the worst things that you can do, and it shows a lack of respect for those people that they go out in front of and claim to be supportive of. And they're doing it in those groups for only one reason, because there's no other venue that they could even find in which they'd have any bit of an advantage, nor would they get any good press out of it, nor would those people actually even like what they have to say. There's one grouping left of at least people that will sides of the argument. And it's unfortunate that the people that are going out that are in opposition to this are willing to use tactics that they will claim that the Democrats use in order to try to make their point, which shows me that they're no better than the authoritarian psychopaths on the other side of the fence. That you are no better. Matter of fact, you are worse because you are a liar. You are a liar that you support the free market. You are a liar that you support individual liberty. You are a liar that you support competition. And that you are a liar that you are not in bed completely, all the way, covers down, completely naked, on top with the establishment. There's no getting around that. I'm sorry to get all mad about it. Danielle, any comment?
No, I think I analyzed it. I mean, I don't support or oppose the initiative. I went through what it said.
All right. Well, okay. That's all I got on this one. Again, here's the other part about it too. If you are opposed to this being done via the ballot, and that's your only argument, I don't necessarily have a problem with you. If you, but in order to do that though, you have to recognize, what I would like these people to recognize though, is that this is a problem, that we do need to have a solution, and that legislatively, then that's the direction that we should go. Which I think a lot of the people that will say that, well, I'm not really for the ballot initiative because I don't really think that we should change the Constitution in this aspect. However, we got to get it done legislatively because something should be done. Like we should be, the market should be lifted or should be free to allow for competition. And even if it was competition for whatever, it should be opened up. That's what I would like to see out of some of these people, because reasonable people can disagree on this issue. Reasonable people can have a disagreement on this issue. But the tactics in which you fight this issue is where I will say you're either good or you're bad. And from what I've seen, these people have used some of the most disingenuous ways to do it. Look, when they wrote an article in the Heartland, straight lied about me. We haven't really brought this up on the air too much. They straight lied. Danielle?
They were completely inaccurate.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, they have since changed that article, because I sent an email and I said, look, man, you guys are just lying about me. You need to change this. And it was very strongly worded. It did indicate possible legal action, I think.
It should.
Yeah. Well, they lied. Look, first off, I'm not a lobbyist.
At all.
At all.
I don't even let them walk in the building.
And that's probably best for everyone.
Yeah. The second thing is, the Liberty First Network has never lobbied for solar. As a matter of fact, the organization that Danielle went to last night, and we'll leave them nameless, not for any other reason than we just, we like the group, they like us.
Yeah, I like the group, and I have a lot of respect for them. They have respect for me.
Ton of respect. The problem there, though, is that we've gone to that group 2 different time frames in the past 3 months, and we haven't even used the word solar when we were in there.
Well, I don't lobby for the issue. Listen, solar in and of itself has many, many lobbyists. It's not my issue. I don't look at the, I want more competition, and if there was a lot of legislation that showed more competition and I wasn't already busy with a lot of other stuff, maybe I'd look into it. But it's just not my issue. It's just not. I mean, I'm very, very busy with education. I'm very busy with the craft brewery industry. And that's about all I can handle as one person. And John is very busy with the property rights and dealing with, some of the other things that he deals with, and he's doing more with red light cameras and things like that. So it's just not something we wouldn't even have time to. And a lot of the legislation that gets proposed, I have issues with one way or another. So it's just not something that comes up on our radar screen ever.
Yeah. So this things to where we govern ourselves by a certain set of rules. And I believe that we do this to try to make sure that we're honorable people. Mm-hmm. I think that's a fair way to say it.
Yeah.
Again, agree or disagree with me. Call me mean. Call me, a yelling bastard. Call me whatever you want to call me. I'm fair. I am fair, and I do govern myself by a certain set of rules to maintain what I would consider to be an honorable person. But I do that because there's nothing that pisses me off more than when people act like a bunch of dishonorable bastards, and that's what I'm seeing in the opposition to this. My problem with them is not that they disagree with me. My problem with them is the way in which they go about doing it, is the lies. The just friggin' lies. And then to lie about me? Like, here's the thing, man. Don't lie about me. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Because we're being nice about it right now where you'll just get an email telling you to take it down. But don't think of that this is over. Don't think that there's not an expose that we can't do on what you guys are doing. Don't think that we can't just be following you around with a camera, putting it in your face and asking you questions all the time. We can't do that because we can do that. Not only can we do that, but we are way smarter than you thought. Now, I know that I'm kind of the dumb one at times, but the problem is, for you, is that I hang around really smart people. That's the problem. I hang out with people that are really, really, really smart. Not people that agree with me on everything. Not yes people. People that are really smart, though. Kind of put that camera in that direction. And then stick the
There she is. There's the smart one.
And then stick the camera in that direction. He's pretty smart,
Oh,
too.
I guess I'm nominally smart.
And if you could put a picture of Adrian up, you put a picture of Adrian up, too.
Nah.
Okay, we're not going to do that. But, look. Be honorable. That's all I'm saying. You're going to get into these debates to be honorable, because if you're being dishonorable, and in my opinion, it's been going in that direction, you better change your freaking tune, because it's really pissing me off. And the level of disrespect that you're showing to groups by being this dishonest is insulting. So we'll just leave it at that.
I have a news update that you probably will think is relevant. Today, in Hillsborough County Court in Justice Paul Huey's courtroom, the Public Transportation Commission is suing Uber, and the results of this, Judge Huey's decision is going to determine whether Uber will be able to continue operating in Hillsborough County or not.
Whew, man. Boy, that's another big fight we got coming, man. That's another thing. Honestly. All right, we'll end this on a libertarian note.
I love Uber.
This is also another very telling thing. Again, when you don't get into certain subjects until things like Uber happen. Mm-hmm. You don't get into the relationship between cab companies and the government and the massive regulations that go along with, somebody a ride and charging for it, until things like Uber come around to shake things up. That will do in the free market what would be called creative destruction. Is that Uber is the way in which people are able to get from point A to point B when it comes to being, paying for it. That normally you'd have to call a cab. The cabs are highly regulated. You got to get a medallion for it. It's a whole process, and it's a stupid process. They label it as safety for the consumer, and it's not. It's just the way that the government can actually generate more money for themselves. Uber changes that completely. Think about it. Uber's a transportation company that owns 0 cars.
Yeah.
They are a transportation company that owns 0 cars. And you know why? Because they're allowing the free market to work, utilizing the technology of the day. And what's the government's response to this? What is your government's response to this that would be there to look out for the people? To close them down. They're cheaper than cabs. You can get them quicker than cabs. You can get more choices than you would with cabs. That you can do a lot of good. And if you're just a regular person, you can literally just get in your car, you fill out the stuff that you got to fill out in Uber, and you can start driving people around. Like, this is a way for people that are in bad situations to find a job that they can do very easily and drive people around. What a great concept this is. What is the government's response? Shut it down because they're not giving us their cut. They're like the freaking mob.
Well, they do. I mean, I guess depending on your perspective, they do have arguments that are beyond, give us our cut. Here's the three main arguments that are being proposed, at least in this Hillsborough County courtroom. They want more thorough background checks for drivers. They want mechanical inspections on the vehicles, and they want more broad commercial insurance in case there's a crash, which I don't think are necessarily unreasonable expectations, but is the government the ones who are really capable of ensuring that this is done? That's currently the medallion system with the taxis is all about, is making sure that the person who's driving the cab isn't a serial killer or serial rapist or whatever. The car is not going to break down in the middle of your journey, and that they're covered with insurance if they get in a crash.
But shouldn't I, as the consumer, shouldn't I be the one to decide that risk or not? Like, listen, I get there's a cab company. They probably have stricter background checks. Their vehicles are checked, so I know that they're probably going to get to where they're going. And I know that this has government oversight, and that's there. And I know that if I call for Uber, that I may not be guaranteed the same level of service. But shouldn't I choose whether I'm willing to take that risk or not?
Oh yeah, I'm I'm not saying you shouldn't.
No,
I'm just
you're
saying,
playing a little devil's advocate on this one, or laying out their case.
Yeah.
And look, I think that the background check thing is something that Uber is doing. They don't like it because it isn't as extensive as they would like it, but I do think that's a little bit of a misleading thing on their end, because what they're doing is it's not meeting their certification, but there's a better background check that Uber does than what they do. Right. And that better background check is that you get to rate those drivers.
Right.
And that if you get a couple bad ratings, people aren't going to use you. So I would say that the Uber rating system is better than the one that the government would like them to have. Second thing with the vehicles. With those vehicles, more inspections on the vehicles. Again, if you break down when you're with an Uber, like if you pick up a ride and you break down on that ride, boy, I think that the person that's the Uber, the passenger on this is going to start to complain, and by complaining, people are not going to use him as much. So I think that having that piece of paper doesn't stop it. Uber stops it. Like, Uber has a mechanism in place that is better than the mechanism that they're arguing about. The third thing, when it comes to the liability aspect of it, that's a tough one.
That's really the only one that I agree there should be some kind of assurance that the Uber have a level of insurance that's going to cover whatever happens, because the basic insurance that we all have as just normal everyday drivers isn't necessarily going to cover everything if we're acting as kind of a commercial driver. At least the insurance company is going to, you're paying you for this ride, you're acting as a taxi, we're not covering this policy that you have doesn't cover what just happened for you. So there's...
And I do... Look, I got to tell you, man, when it comes to... I think as Uber goes, Uber could make a requirement for... that they had certain coverage on a vehicle. And that when it comes to your insurance that you have on your vehicle, one of the things that they ask you is, what's the vehicle being used for? How many miles are you going to be driving? And they do base your rates based off of that. So if you don't tell the insurance company that you have the full story about what it is that you're doing with your vehicle,
then it's fraud.
Then it is fraud.
It is.
Mm-hmm. So in that aspect, I think Uber should make a requirement for that, but if they don't, then people just don't have to use them.
If I go next door and say, listen, I'll give you $10 take me to the store, I have zero extra coverage, and I'm still paying for someone to give me a ride. And if I'm willing to take on that risk, knowing that if there's an accident, I may not be covered, this may happen. Listen, at the end of the day, I feel like that's my right to do. I can ask anyone and say, I'll give you $10 if you give me a ride here, and that technically puts them in commercial vehicle, standards. And so I just think that's my right to say I'll take on the risk.
Let me now. I can't believe I'm going to say this, Danielle, but I let me disagree with you a little bit on this. If you one time are taking one person to the store and back and getting $10, let's just say, is that the insurance companies work off of risk,
Right.
and that if you're doing it just, I don't think that you shouldn't have to automatically have a consumer, a business license. However, if you're going to be doing this as your job, then the amount of $10 rides you're going to get is going to go up tremendously, and that may adjust what kind of coverage you would need.
If I'm on my way to work every single day and I pick up 3 people every single day on the way to work and charge them a fee to bring them, that's 5 days a week that there and back, that I am picking up people and dropping them off, am I going to have to get more insurance because now I'm a commercial driver?
The insurance company, if you actually get into an accident, the insurance company is probably going to say, yes, you needed better insurance because we're not going to cover this.
But should the government demand it?
No.
You ask that question on anything, I think we're going to say no.
Yeah, I really think that.
And that's my point, is that people do this all the time. There are many people, I used to do it on the way to work. I would pick up people there. It's how I made money to supplement my income, and I did it. And so, so does all of a sudden we have to have the government say, well, if you're giving a person a ride to work and you're taking money, or you need more insurance? That's ridiculous.
Just save that for a judge. Call the police.
Well, we do have evidence.
Danielle, it's all on air now. You're already caught.
Well, I've done the same thing too. I used to have people that lived in my neighborhood that worked at the same place I did, and we would all carpool, and they would all give me money, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah, both are going to jail.
Well, here's the thing, though.
You just murdered people.
The way I see it, Uber does not fit as a taxi company. It's certainly a transportation service, but this is a whole new thing. Just like the telegraph and the telephone and the internet are all communication services, none of them are exactly the same thing. And they're all advancements in technology. And I think Uber is an advancement in technology and in the practice of finding rides and paying people for rides. And I don't know whether I'm articulating it the best here, but yeah. I don't think that Uber falls into the same category as a traditional cab company, and it shouldn't necessarily be regulated the same way. Now, I'm not going to be one to advocate for regulating it at all, but if it's going to be regulated by the government, I don't think that the same standards that the taxis have are really going to work. I don't think it's fair, and I don't think it works for what it is, because these people aren't taxi drivers. They're just normal, everyday people who sign into the app, say, I'm available to give people a lift, and may give people a lift during that time, may not. They're not on the clock. They're contractors at best. So it's not the same as a cab company or a bus company or anything like that. This is a whole new level of transportation business. And if we're going to do anything as far as government regulation or anybody getting involved and telling them what they're allowed to do, then we have to approach it from the direction of this is something new, not put the guidelines of something old on top of it.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, I guess we can end it there. Again, I only want to do 2 anyway. So
3 hours.
And 3 hours. Well, look, man, I'd rather us just say we're going to do 2 hours, but then if we want to get into a third, we can. And today we needed to because I really wanted to go through that solar stuff, though. It pisses me off on so many levels. It really does. I'm very angry with the whole thing. But I'm angry about it for different reasons, though. You know, some of the reasons are widely known, but some of them weren't. And I wanted to lay it out very clearly because I do look at this as a disrespectful thing. That
it is. You
go to groups and you're disrespecting them. It's just sad. It's just sad. But anyway, we'll end the show for today. We're back next week. Danielle will be here. Greg will be here. I'll be here. Cats and dogs living together. Mass hysteria. Hopefully everybody has a good weekend, and we'll see you guys next week.